astronauts, this is Brandy and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. Let us get into this video, which is the 2025 in detail, what major events will be shaping your up and coming year. I am so excited for this reading. I love doing the yearly readings, and then I always go back and see if it was accurate for me. It's usually accurate for me. So I hope this is also accurate for you astronauts as well. Now, before we get started, I do want to remind you to like, to comment, and to subscribe. Always remember that I go live on the weekends. That is either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. You can catch me. To figure out what time I'm going to be live, all you have to do is check out that community tab, and I will have the time posted by latest Tuesday night, but I usually like to post before then. Speaking of the community tab, I love polling you astronauts and getting your opinions on what videos you would like to see next. Now, I may not get all of the videos quick, fast, in a hurry, but I do like to get to them as soon as possible, so you can be on the lookout for your favorite reading that you voted for. So check out those polls. Lastly, I do want to say, if you would like to follow me and know more about me, you can just check out my TikTok. That is linked below. And if you're interested in some astrology studies, you can check out my Instagram. Now we can get into these pals. We have pal number 1, pal number 2, pal number 3, pal number 4, and pal number 5. So let's not waste any more time, my lovely astronauts, and just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey pal number 1, let's get started on those major events that will shape your year 2025. We have Celebrate Your Wins. We have the Star card. We have the World. Wow, what an amazing year. We have the 10 of Swords. We have the Strength card. And we have Thank You for Being Awesome. Love that. And let's pull your Nakshatra card. That is Uttara Falguni. Yay! Uttara Falguni. And I also have my Astro Dice, which I'm so excited. I've been using them. Been using them away because it's astrology. It's Astro-Tarot Research. So, we have the first house. We have Mercury. And we have Sagittarius. So, Celebrate Your Wins and the Star card and Mercury and Sagittarius in the first house. First thing it makes me think of is like almost reaching some sort of body goal. Maybe that's my subconscious coming out, but when I think Celebrate Your Wins and then I get the first house and the Star card, it's kind of like celebrate yourself in a sense, because this all has to do with, saying putting yourself in the limelight, putting yourself out there, allowing yourself to be celebrated, not just by you, but by other people as well. The World card here, that represents admiration from other people. Other people seeing you on your journey and feeling like, wow, this person is absolutely amazing. So a major life event can be reaching a certain goal or achieving something that a lot of people seem to be congratulating you about. Now, because we have first house, like I said, the first thing I thought of was self-image. Being like, okay, I may have overcome some sort of maybe body dysmorphia. That could happen. This can have to do with being able to reach a weight goal or a weight loss goal or even a weight gain goal, because, lots of people like building muscle. I personally love building muscle. This can have to do with achieving some sort of health goal in a way. Since we're talking about the first house, that can be anything from like, oh, let me quit vaping, let me quit smoking, let me run a marathon, let me join a running club, let me try Pilates. And people are like, wow, you look great. Like, what did you do? And, you're being celebrated and you're celebrating yourself because you put in that work, because you put in that time and you put in that effort to uplift yourself and make yourself feel good. And one thing about Uttara Falguni is it came up a lot in my study when it comes to beautiful Black women, obviously. It was one of the most popular placements. Actually, it was the most popular placement in terms of moon sign when it comes to beautiful Black women. And it's also interesting because I would expect it to come up a lot for sun sign. And the reason I say that is because most people are born around the Virgo time period. And I mean Virgo in Western astrology. And Uttara Falguni falls into Virgo as well in Western and Vedic astrology. But there are a lot of people born with Uttara Falguni. There are a lot of people born with Magha placements, things along the lines of that. So I would have expected those placements to come up quite frequently, or Purva Falguni, I should say, those two, like that kind of energy can be very, Virgo, right? So I wasn't surprised by Purva Falguni coming up, and in a way I wasn't surprised by Uttara Falguni, but I guess I was surprised in the sense for their moon sign, because your moon sign changes like every single day. But I guess it makes sense, because one thing that makes people attractive is averageness, meaning how closely do you resemble the average human being? Like, how average is your face when you compile a bunch of faces together? How closely does your face match the average? And obviously with Uttara Falguni and astrology, your planetary placements can shape how you are perceived and your features, etc. like that. At least that's what I believe and what I have seen, right? So where I'm going with this is the fact that you may be seen as more attractive to other people. You may find yourself standing out more in a sense because you fit those beauty standards, because you match up to what people's idea of what beauty or health looks like, or something along the lines of that. This can also represent, in a way, embracing some of your flaws too, because Mercury is a very intelligent planet. Mercury knows that they are not this perfect human being, and they are very self-aware about how people view them and how people see them. So being able to navigate the, I guess, beauty standards or maintenance standards or maintenance wars going on is something that can be very complicated and very tricky, especially when it comes to balancing that psychologically. But the point I'm trying to make is there may be some event, and this event has to be surrounded by you and leveling up your appearance. Not to say it needs leveling up, but if that's something that you are looking to do, then absolutely that is what's going to be happening in 2025. I just gotta focus on the appearance here. And also Mercury in the first house can represent a more like youthful appearance as well. People tend to think that they look a lot younger. I've even seen it in the Navamsha too, like where somebody might have Mercury in their first house in Navamsha, and people think like as they get older, they get a little bit confused. They're like, hey, how old are you? You look a lot younger, etc. And this can also bring about like some sort of ambiguity about how somebody looks, where some people may feel like, ambiguity is not the right word. Well, I guess it is, but I was thinking more androgynous, where some people feel like, okay, is this person a man? Is this person a woman? Like, they're not really able to tell all the time with this type of energy, which makes sense because Mercury is like a neutered planet in astrology, so it doesn't represent man or woman. You know, some planets are more feminine, some planets are more masculine. Mercury's just like, I'm everything. So that's something that can have to do here. You can take on a more androgynous appearance, but either way, you're glowing. 2025, you are glowing. People see it. They feel like, wow, you look amazing. What have you done? You've transformed. Something has changed within you. Like, this is incredible. This is incredible what people are seeing, and they're very impressed. They're very impressed with your nature, how you look, and etc. People are really lining up to congratulate you on whatever you've done to improve your physical. So that's something. This could be anything from like getting tattoos or removing tattoos, getting piercings, removing piercings, something along the lines of that. But there's so many, it has to do with a transformation about the physical. And that's a huge event that's going to be happening. Now, if we're talking more so about like an internal transformation, which this can be like if you have zero plans to level up your appearance or make some changes or whatever. Maybe I shouldn't use level up because it makes it sound like, oh, you're dusty or something like that. But it's more so like if you're not planning to make any changes or transformations in your appearance. Well, this can also represent changes in how you go about things mentally. The first house is all about starting things that are new. For example, like when Saturn went through, what was that Saturn went through? See, I've seen Saturn go through the first house and people start businesses. People have started new projects, new jobs, taking on new roles, new responsibilities. That can have to do with that. Granted, Mercury in the first house is not necessarily, hey, I'm an authority. It's more so a planet that's going to be more so focused on building connections with other people and expressing yourself creatively. If it is about any authority, has to be within a business you started. It has to be within a business you started. Mercury is like this very independent planet. When I see mercurial people, they don't like having bosses. They don't like people telling them what to do all day. So people could be congratulating you on starting your own independent venture. If that's something on your mind, then that is what's going to be happening in 2025. If you're already currently doing that, then you're going to achieve some successes in those areas. We wouldn't get the world card. We wouldn't get celebrate your wins. We wouldn't get the star card if you weren't about to achieve something major in your life, especially if it comes to like your job, your career, your business, or like I said, with the physical transformation. But with this first house energy is all about your entire life, really. Like I said, it's embarking on this journey that is life, so it affects all areas. And whatever's happening in this area can really shift everything in your life. You know, something along the lines of like, oh my gosh, I got a new job. It pays me a lot of money. So now I can buy the house of my dreams. I can buy this wardrobe. I can get me a stylist. I can get a personal trainer. And now my body's changing. And now I can afford to get surgery. And now I can go to, I don't know, places and afford to go to like charity events. Like certain charity events you like have to pay to get in, right? Like it'll be like you have to pay 10 grand to show up to this event or something. So it's like now I get to go into this room where I'm going to this charity event at this art gallery and I am making more connections. Like certain things happen within your life that can elevate all areas, right? And so that may be something that's happening to you in 2025, where there is a major event happening that is causing your entire life to sort of go to the next level. This level that feels exciting and enthusiastic, and where you're like, oh, great, I get to embark on this new venture, and this feels incredible. Like this feels like things are changing and things are picking up the pace, and it's finally going in the direction that I want it to go in. Just a sigh of relief for you guys, pal. Are we at 2? Yeah, pal, number 1, down number 1. I don't know why I'm thinking 2. I'm tired. That's what it is. Excuse me. But when we get into Uttara Falguni, even if we're just pulling away from this sense of work hard, play hard. Let me pause for a second because my brain is going in this direction and the spirit wants me to talk about this. So you see the woman, the figure here with this red sort of scarf thing going on here on her head. I'm not really sure what that's called, but, or what the intention of the artist was with that. But you know what it reminds me of is Red Riding Hood. And when I was like doing a study like on fairy tales, I always do like these little side adventure studies. Uttara Falguni came up really prevalently in the story of Little Red Riding Hood. And if you know the story about Little Red Riding Hood, I'm not going to go into the details, but essentially it's a metaphor of people trying to take advantage of someone who can be innocent and kind and giving and naive in a way. And so it becomes a story about how to avoid predators and how to stay safe and how to guard yourself and be on defense. And the reason that I am talking about this is because new levels, new devils, guys. What we have here is because you are rising in achievement and the things that you want to accomplish, and that you are receiving possibly more financial business benefits. Perhaps you are, like I said, leveling up your appearance, that you are more in tune with your beauty and your power and your confidence, that you are someone who is taking control of your life and being celebrated. What happens is that you start to, attract these haters. Like you get this evil eye type of energy that may be after you. Not to make you paranoid or anything, but I'm only talking about this because we have this 10 of Swords and Mercury. And Mercury is one of the most jealous planets. I know Mars gets a bad rap for like the jealousy and insecurity and things like that, but Mercury is really like the planet of jealousy. If you go on my astrology page, then you can see I have a post called like Obsession. And in this post, I talk about love obsession, and the most popular placement for attracting sort of love obsession were the mercurial placements, in particular Jesta. But I do talk about the other mercurial placements and how they somehow bring about this energy of envy. And it is very, very, very tense. Very, very intense. Very, very intense. Very competitive planet that Mercury has here. And so I want you to be aware of that as we move forward in 2025. That not everybody is celebrating your wins with you. And I think you're smart enough to know that. But I think you're really going to peep that in 2025. You're really going to pick up on that energy of that strange switch up that you're going to see with certain individuals. So I just want you to be aware of that. I want you to understand that, but I don't want to focus too much on that. It's just something that Spirit wanted me to say, because I think sometimes maybe I personally get caught up in trying to, talk about the things that are beneficial and that are good that are coming. And maybe I might neglect the things that actually is a major event, because it's obviously a major event if we're talking about this in this reading. And I don't want to ignore that and have you step into 2025 thinking everything is all beautiful and amazing. Like I said, you're going to get some people who just may be not as happy for you. Excuse me. My nose is just stuffed. I don't know what's going on. Sinuses, change of seasons. I don't know anymore. What's happening here is this could possibly deal with recognition when it comes to the workplace, the work area. This is a lot to do with focusing on even benefiting your health. Mercury with the Sagittarius in the first house can represent like, hey, I'm doing a lot of research when it comes to how I want to show up in the world. Trying to decide what looks good on me, what doesn't look good on me. Do I want to do Pilates? Do I like doing yoga? Do I want to eat this thing, to eat that thing? Granted, that's more second house, but first house deals with the body, so there are themes of that when we have the first house in here, but second house will really be intensified with that. This can be about your routine being not so routine, being this thing where there's going to be a major change and switch up. And I think we know that because we have the World card here, which is all about endings. And when we have the World card being all about endings, and then we have the first house, which is all about new beginnings, technically, if you want to get into it, we know that this can represent a change in jobs, a change in your daily routines, a change in your workplace, a change in your roles in your workplace. If you don't have a workplace, let's say you're like more of a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, whatever the case may be, then this is definitely a change in your household and your household duties and what it actually exactly you do at home. Whether that is, you know, you shift to getting some extra help at home. You shift, you know, the chores that you do and that you're involved in. You get your kids involved in certain sports or activities, and now that changes the routine of things. But whatever it is, how you're living life in 2024 is not the same way you're going to be living life in 2025. Please don't think that in the slightest it is not going to be the same. This is a big shift. This is a big change. This is a major event that's happening here. Whatever it is that is being celebrated, that is putting you in the limelight, that's giving you success, is causing a major change and major transformation in those areas. Okay? Now, what I'm seeing is, for some of you, this could possibly represent finding a better work environment. Now, we're focusing a lot on work and achievement because Uttara Falguni is very much like work oriented. I think if you watch my Black Beauty study and you see when I talk about Uttara Falguni women, granted, I focus more on Sun because like, I don't even go get into the reasoning for that, but it doesn't matter. The general energies are the same. It's all about working hard to achieve what you want to achieve, being in a position of power, being focused. I mean, it's not necessarily even about power. It can be, but it's like Uttara Falguni people really love working. Not every nakshatra placement loves working. I mean, the placement right before Purva Falguni is called the hammock, right? Meaning they're not trying to do all that work. They're not trying to do all that, right? But this is like, they have to work. They get their joy and their fulfillment and their empowerment and their excitement from work. And I love how they have this here, the power to accumulate wealth. That is so true with Uttara Falguni. I'm not saying they're the wealthiest, because I've done a study on like billionaires and they don't come up for that. But if you look at one of the like most average kind of like middle class, financially stable people, Virgos come up, I believe, as the most successful type of sign, which makes sense because there's kind of more of them. But Virgos do like to work hard. They are focused on being, you know, girl or boy bosses and achieving whatever it is that they can achieve to get themselves to the top. It is all about ensuring that you are contributing to society, that your work is being valued, that you are being celebrated, that you are being appreciated for your efforts. It's all of those feels that all of this, like, it reminds me of the 90s where we had like a lot of propaganda towards like women being girl bosses and being in the workplace and saying, yeah, I can do anything a man can do. And now things are more like pulled back where you have like soft life and things along the lines of that. But anyway, this is very much like I'm bossing up type of energy. This is like, hey, I'm going to make sure that I do anything I can to empower myself, especially through a work environment. That's why I think a lot of the major events that will be happening for you in 2025 are centered around work. And I think I've already listed a few, but I want to list a few more and say promotion and switching jobs, which a few pals might be switching jobs this year. Really, honestly, I mean, it's coming up for quite a few of you. Changing that routine, changing your work environment, changing your office setting, maybe even just rearranging your office setting, working from home instead of working in the office, or vice versa, or going from working from home or going to the office is something that will change and transform and be something that's major happening here. And this can also be like some changes in health. You know, maybe you had some health problems that you've been tackling, and things are starting to get better. You know, you get to a point where you say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm going to actually deal with this, and I'm going to achieve some successes and move forward and learn how to manage this health problem. Especially if it's chronic, you might be looking for ways to manage it, and you're going to find success. And that's going to be a major thing, especially if that is something that you have been dealing with for a long time, because the World card represents something that you've been working at for a long period. Think of how long the Fool's journey is through the deck. Like, they got to go from point A to point B. They got to talk to the Emperor. They got to talk to the Empress. They got to talk to the Hermit. They got to have some tower moments. They got to go through this moment of star and hope and say, oh no, it's not, everything is gone and lost. And then they got to go and deal with all this changes and with the ebb and flow of life, with the Wheel of Fortune. Like, it's such a long journey with the Fool card. And so this is something you have been dealing with for a long time, or working towards for a long time, and this event is coming true back in 2025. This is a major event. Now, something that we also want to talk about when we get into these, you know, major events that are happening, is that we want to go into educating yourself and traveling and being more worldly. And I say this because we have the World card, yes, but we also have Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury in Sagittarius doesn't necessarily mean, okay, this person is a travel fiend and they're all over the place, but it does indicate wanting to educate yourself on other cultures and being a student of the world, and having to navigate all of these experiences and gain more skills and gain more insights into the world around you. So something that could be a major event for some, excuse me, I don't know what's going on. Something that could be a major event for a lot of you who chose this pile number one is that maybe you're like, I got a passport. I have got my visa to go to a different country. I am going back to school. I'm writing a memoir about traveling. I'm starting a travel blog. I'm starting a travel business. I am teaching people. Me, that's myself and I'm teaching other people, especially when we have the Strength card here, which connects to Leo, the 5th house of education. So we have like 2 indicators of education here, which makes me think that you are taking courses, taking classes, you are educating yourself, or you're educating other people, or you're put in a position where you have to lead a team and sort of educate and train someone, like mentor someone. That's something that will be important for you in 2025. Being able to be an ambassador for a cause, or, you know, maybe some of you are gaining something like dual citizenship, but that's kind of like maybe a rare portion of you or something like that. But really, this can deal with, I'm attending a conference, a work conference, and they want me to travel there and report on that work conference, and I have to travel for work. That's something that can happen with these cards for sure. It's taking on new responsibilities through that work as well. And for some of you, because we have the World card and we have the Strength card, the World card is the end of the journey. Like, it's a time period to not do anything. We're resting. Same with the Strength card here, which is about relaxation, taking a pause, taking a moment to yourself. Then this can, and also the 10 of Swords is endings, but this can represent saying, all right, we're taking a pause, we're taking a period, we're taking a break, and we may be backpacking through some foreign countries. Maybe we're going to Ghana, maybe we're going to Nigeria, like things along the lines of that. I want to expand my reach, expand my knowledge, expand my vision of reality and of the world. Okay? That is what we have here. And it's interesting here, we have a lot of thank you for being awesome, celebrating your wins, Star card, the world. There's so much to celebrate here in 2025 for you, pal number one. Like, what are you doing? Like, this sounds like amazing, these major events that you're going to. And like I said, I focused a lot on the work related and the health things and the glow ups, but there could be a lot more other areas that you can be achieving things in, you know, being featured on some sort of achievers list, or, you know, being, launching like a personal brand, or, you know, hosting a webinar, or something you may have never done before, or something along the lines of that. You know, this is very much climbing corporate ladder type of energy. I know I'm trying to focus away from work, but the focus really is work here, guys. It really is. Work and personal development are the two main things that are coming up, along with, you know, creativity, education a little bit is happening. And then we do, like I already mentioned, like the evil eye. And I've already mentioned the evil eye, which you may find people have that, you know, green envious eye towards you in 2025. And that's going to possibly lead to a major betrayal, because the Ten of Swords does deal with, you know, betrayal and being stabbed in the back, and, you know, someone you trusted and who, you know, isn't particularly there for you in that situation. But it doesn't matter, because we do have the Strength card here, which lets me know that you're going to endure this. You're going to get through it. It's going to be painful. It may be like a very sad and devastating loss, but it's not something that you can't overcome and that you can't push past and keep going. That's why we have this Thank You for Being Awesome card. And I love this card. I've gotten this card to represent usually days that are like trying new things, pushing yourself, taking the opportunity to grow and develop and expand yourself as a person. So yes, you may experience someone who is causing you a lot of troubles, who is doing things, you know, behind your back and trying to undermine you and etc. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you're going to get through that situation and you're going to come out a stronger person than ever, with more wisdom, with someone who now knows how to deal with those type of people in these type of situations. So you're going to have a great deal of intelligence and wisdom growing because of this situation, because of this crisis situation, because of this loss. This is about, okay, I've experienced this. Now I know what that's like. Now I know how to deal with this, and I'm going to continue being awesome. So that is what's happening for you in 2025. Pile number 1. This is quite an amazing story with lots of major events. Okay. One thing that I do want to mention here is when we have Uttara Falguni, I've seen it before, as I said, representing people who may have to deal with others in personal relationships, particularly romantic relationships, where their behavior of their partner may not be up to par, particularly with women. Not always, but with women a lot. And thus, you have to kind of put them in check a little bit, which if you're in a relationship, you may find yourself having to put your partner in check. And there's a reason that Uttara Falguni is known as like the backlegs of the marital card. So it has to do with making connections through marriage and relationships. And so, like I said, I do see an aspect of your 2025 having to do with forming a deep connection or relationship. Or if you're already in a relationship, this is about really kind of like pushing through some of the issues and things that you may have to deal with within a relationship. And there's a lot of things that can come up for various different people, from infidelity to, you know, at the worst, you know, abuse, which is awful. Then you have something along the lines of, excuse me, poor communication, you know, partners might be jealous and sabotaging them. Like, there's a lot of things that could be dealt with within a relationship. That is something that is just known. Okay, I just want you all to be aware of that when it comes to romantic relationships this year. You may find this year to be particularly, I'll say challenging. Because when we have this Ten of Swords and it's following this Leo card, you know, that's kind of representing like having a lot of a lot of strenuous communication within relationships. And to some degree, sometimes it can represent like giving the silent treatment. Other times it's like, okay, I don't even know how to deal with this person. This is very much like uncomfortable for me. It's along the lines of, I don't feel a romantic connection with this person because of the certain way that they communicate and they maneuver and, you know, place themselves out there in the world. And that's something that you may have to deal with in 2025. If you are single, that's when this becomes a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like, it becomes like frustrating because you're going to feel like you're having these conversations that don't really lead anywhere and that just feel disappointing, and that maybe the men or women or whoever you're attracting just aren't really someone that you're looking for. I will say that. But the good thing about Uttara Falguni is that they do attract a lot of people, which I do see that for you. You're just going to be very magnanimous in 2025. I'm trying to think of like Mercury in the first house. I believe like Katy Perry has Mercury in her first house, which, you know, obviously she's had to learn to break away and think for herself because she grew up in a more like religious community. And I think she's mentioned how she kind of had to be a little bit more exploratory, you know, had to break away from certain ideologies that she grew up with. And I think that part of 2025 is that there's definitely going to be a shift in your thinking, for sure. I mean, with Mercury in the first house, and then we have this Ten of Swords, which is like the ending of a sort of thought process where it gets to a pivotal point and you're just like, okay, it's time to reassess my reality, because the way that I'm filtering my reality isn't matching up. Like, I'm being provided new information and now it's time to upgrade things, like, and think in a different manner. So your thinking changes because you have these new experiences and these conversations and events that occur. So I just want to be aware of that. And then this also has to do with being able to grow and develop emotionally. I always talk about the emotional development and intelligence going on here. And it's just true. I mean, with Mercury in the first house, Mercury's probably one of the most emotionally intelligent planets, which, I mean, I don't know how else I can expand upon that. It's just what it is. But that's something that is very much like, you're going to pick up on more people. You're going to observe their behavior. You're going to recognize, you know, your own emotional patterns. You know, like for me, like I have a little bit of a pattern of perfectionism, and, you know, you have to notice these things more as you get older. I mean, if you try to grow in your intelligence, you notice these things as you get older. And I really feel like that's something that's going to be you. Like 2025, you're starting to notice your own patterns. And you're starting to understand what behaviors that you can carry into the future and what behaviors no longer suit you. But I mean, I feel like we all do this every year, but I think 2025, there's a really big shift in your thinking. But one thing's for sure, you're really going to let your light shine through in 2025. I feel like a major event is, for some of you, if you tend to be like a people pleaser, this is where that ends. You know, this Mercury in the first house wants to be resistant towards that energy. It's more about, honestly, doing what you can do to survive. So even if you aren't a confident person, with this year, you're going to be more so, let me fake it till I make it, and it's going to work for you. That's something that's going to come true. So I want you to keep that in mind in 2025 about the shift in mentality. And hopefully this resonates for you, pile number 1. If not, feel free to choose another pile, or maybe I'm not the reader for you. Either way, I'm happy you stopped by. Au revoir. Hey, pile number 2, let's get into the major life events that will be shaping your 2025. We have community. We have the Knight of Swords. We have the Queen of Cups. We have the, should put this here. We have the Three of Swords. And we have the Hangman. And I admire your strength and courage. For your Nakshatra card, we have Kritika. And hopefully everything is in the frame here. And also, we're going into our Astro dice because I'm super excited about these dice. And so I'm using them all the time. We have the Moon, the 3rd house, and Libra. The Moon, the 3rd house, and Libra. So what major events are shaping your 2025, pal number 2? So what I see here is the fact that we have community. Is obviously community is going to be a big part of your 2025. Like, going into this 3rd house, 3rd house is all about the people that you interact with in your daily life, your neighbors, your brothers. In my opinion, when I've had 3rd house transits, like this could be classmates, people you've seen at school. Like I remember when Jupiter transited my 3rd house, that was when I started college, community college actually, right? Community. How ironic, right? Technically it wasn't even my community because I was a little bit further away, but whatever. Community college for the first time, and I was interacting with a lot more people. I went to a very small high school, and so it was like a boost in the amount of people that I was speaking to on a daily basis, which is like what Jupiter does. It expands that area of the 3rd house. So those community people were people who were technically my peers. They were fellow students. Some of them were teachers. A lot of them were even students from other schools because my other friends were in school and I would visit them. So just a lot of people who were in similar circumstances as me. So when I see this 2025 and community is the first thing bright and center with this 3rd house energy, is 2025 is going to be spending a lot more time with people involved in your community. Possibly people in the same circumstances as you, possibly people who are just like your coworkers, people who have similar job titles, similar income, similar backgrounds, whatever the case may be. Or maybe you're just like coming together for a purpose, which is like, okay, we came together for a project at work, or like how I was at the community college. We all were gathered together for that educational purpose, to learn and to get degrees and to apply those skills to a job, more than likely. Not everyone. Some people, I'm sure they take classes for fun, but most people were trying to gain some skills that they could apply to a job. So when we have this energy coming up here, it lets me know that you are expanding that community, or you are being very active in that community, or you're connecting in that community in a different way. Now, don't get me wrong, we got Kritika here, we got the knife. We got the knife, which is what Kritika is, symbolized by, and kind of what it's known for. And to literally, I think it's represented by, is it Agni, the deity? If I'm trying to get that right. I don't know Agni, the deity, which represents fire itself. So just the essence of fire and burning, right, itself. And then we have the Three of Swords. You might be burning a few bridges. So this might be a transformation of community. I want to say that, especially when we have the moon here, because the moon goes in phases. So it's like, okay, one day we're close, next day not so much. The next day, we're back together. Like, it's a very up and down energy. So it can be something along the lines of having very hot and cold relationships you know, with peers, etc., things like that. Other situations is that this can represent, maybe not even this is like a hot and cold situation with peers. It can just be a specific person that you may experiencing a follow out in, which leads to a shift in your community, a change, a transformation in your community. Maybe you yourself feel like, hey, I got to get this person out. They are just not the vibe. They're just not it. I don't think they mesh well with me. It's time for this person to go out of my life. And it can be a peer. It can be somebody you're related to, because the third house does represent siblings and uncles and aunts and stuff like that. Like I said, I haven't had those major things come up for me in terms of that. But it can represent that for someone else. Not everything's about me, right? So when we see that here, it's all about connecting to a tight community, a tight group of people who can be like-minded in a sense. And like I already gave an example of like-minded, where you're all gathered together for education. Or you could all be, you know, gathered together because, like, let's say you're a mom and you gather together with a group of moms, and you guys, you know, maybe just talk about your lives and hang out and things along the lines of that. And so that's forming a new community. But then maybe it gets to a point where you're just like, actually, I kind of feel like I've outgrown this community. I kind of feel like this isn't the right vibe for me. I don't feel like they align well enough with who I am as a person. And it's time for me to move on and make connections elsewhere. But whatever the case may be, this is about sort of growing and connecting your community. That's a major event. Redefining and reshaping. Maybe that's the word I want to use. Redefining and reshaping the relationships in your community to the people around you. And I've already given examples, but let me give a few more. This could be about forming new friendships. This can be something along the lines of working together with new people you haven't worked with before. This, if you have a clientele, you have a business, this is like gaining new clients, gaining new clientele, or even deciding, okay, I'm not trying to attract that clientele, so maybe I need to shift my marketing and my focus in my business to attract the type of clientele that I want. That's something that could possibly be going on as well. And this can also be very like cliquey and something along the lines of like, hey, I'm not going to let more people into my group, you know, very much like, you know, Drake, no new friends, right? Things along the lines of that. Like, I don't want to let anybody in. I'm very cliquey. I'm very much like, I don't want to do all that. I want to do all that. Okay. But let's keep that in mind as we move forward in 2025, that there's going to be a lot of shifting and a lot of changing when it comes to your community. Perhaps this is even representative, like, okay, the neighborhood might change, where possibly your neighborhood used to be like a lot of older people and now a lot more young people are moving in. So something along the lines of that. So that is what I want to throw out there in terms of 2025. Like, your immediate surroundings can possibly be changing. Third house also represents your mind. And since we have the moon here, I'm trying to remember if it was the moon or Mercury in the third house. I think it was actually Sun and Mercury. I think the moon was safe in terms of children or something like that. But I know the third house connects to children because I did a whole study on it. And also moon in the seventh house, which is kind of similar to moon in Libra, can connect to children. So this can even mean like, okay, now there's more children involved in my community. How could that happen? Maybe your friends have kids. Maybe you're in a neighborhood and it's a very like young neighborhood, like I said. And so a lot of people are young parents and new families. And so you're like, oh, okay, this is a little different. You know, this neighborhood used to be people kind of like very much older, very much like retired, and it was super quiet. Now it's a little bit more booming and busy and things along the lines of that. But we've already gone into that and such far, so far and so forth, whatever. But I want to get into this third house thing when it comes to how you think in your mind, because when we have this here, we have someone who is mentally very attuned and very sharp when we have the moon going into the third house. This represents the ability to have strong communications with others, to have a intuitive understanding of language, to be able to pick up stronger on the social cues, to be able to read mothers, what am I talking about? To be able to read others more efficiently, which is essentially just like, well, okay, you're a little bit more observant, a little bit more emotionally intelligent when it comes to who you are in your personality. Kind of like this Knight of Swords is reflecting how it's like, okay, I'm gaining new communication skills. So I see that happening for you in 2025. That's a major event. And there's so many different ways that you can go about gaining more communication skills, from learning a language, from deciding that you want to study how to sound more powerful. For example, you could say, okay, I'm going to practice ending my sentences on an inflection that goes downward instead of upward. Like, I think I'm going to do that. Like, you know, instead of, I think I'm going to do that. So you may want to practice things along the lines of that. And it can represent that you are deciding to master the language in terms of your writing style. Or maybe you want to really get good at public speaking. Maybe you want to be someone who is able to eloquently express yourself on the spot. I know personally I stumble with that. If you put me on the spot, I get nervous, I stumble. I don't even think I make any sense. So maybe you want to be someone who practices just kind of having more spontaneous speech that feels organic, that people are feeling assured by and comforted by, because the moon is that very comforting energy. And so you could also find yourself comforting a lot of people this year and feeling like you are growing within your connections. And like I said, something about expanding and building and reshaping your community and the people around you and your friendships is very, very important for you this year. A lot of reflection, okay? A lot of reflection, okay? But definitely the relationships you have with people are changing and they're transforming, and it's going to be a lot different than how you enter 25 to how you leave 2025. I just want to say that. Other major events that can be happening, as I mentioned, I feel like we've mentioned a lot. As I mentioned, like the learning of the languages and trying to articulate yourself better, possibly even gaining some new skills. This can represent, like I said, going back to school. The third house also connects to facing fears. I know. You're like, facing fears? Yeah, facing fears. The third house is the house of courage. So when you have like this emphasis on the third house, and you're going to put in situations where you need to be brave, where you need to face those fears. For example, like I remember like that last time I was talking about with Jupiter in the third house, I had a fear driving. Secondly, I still have some fears around it. But there's certain aspects of driving that I was just completely and totally in fear of. When I had that Jupiter going through my third house, I had to learn how to drive. And I was just scared and I just didn't want to do it. But I was forced to face that fear because I needed to go to school and I needed to be able to drive myself to school because my dad couldn't do it, right? He has a whole like a job and stuff, and I need to be more independent, right? So that was something I had to deal with at that time previously, and face those fears. Along with fears revolving public speaking and social anxieties, and because I was meeting more people. So it's going to put you in a situation where if you have fears like that, talking to people, expressing yourself, getting your thoughts across, you're going to have to do it a lot more. It can be tiring. It can be tiring. I don't think we have like Saturn and Mars and all of these planets. We have softer planets here, so it's not going to be as harsh for you. But it can be a little bit like, oh, this is something I don't want to have to deal with, okay? That's something that is it. And also with this moon in the third house with Libra, this can deal with managing the emotions of other people and then learning to interact with people who may not all the time be that emotionally stable because the moon represents your mind, and people obviously have good health days and bad mental health days, the same way we get sick physically, and we can get sick mentally, you know? I mean, that's just how that's how things go. That's life. You can go through periods where you're just like, I'm not doing so well right now. Like, you know, I'm just unwell at the moment. And so when we have this moon in the third house with the Libra thing, this is representing how can I navigate the emotions of the people around me without getting too caught up in, you know, any sort of turbulence that it may cause to my life. Like, how can I effectively ensure that I'm having a positive experience from my day without being affected by someone else? Okay, so that's something that can be happening in 2025, where you may find yourself encountering some people who may not always be, you know, the most sound people. Okay, I just want to say that. Like, I don't want to like put any negative labels on it, because, you know, mental health is important, right? Major events, where was I going with this? Yeah, the House of Courage. I go off on tangents, guys. So the House of Courage, which third house is all about those facing those fears, is really important, especially is the fact that we're having it reinforced by, it says, I admire your strength and your courage. Isn't that funny? How everything just aligns when you need it to align. So you're going to have to be courageous in 2025. So if you have any fears going on, if you have something that's making you nervous, especially when it comes to relationships and expressing yourself to other people, you're going to have to face that. For example, like me personally, I get nervous. I'm trying to learn a new language, Japanese, but whenever it comes time to actually speak it or say it out loud to someone who might possibly speak Japanese, I freeze up. You know what I mean? So you may have to be put in more situations where things like that are happening. And this can also have to do with, you know, expressing your abilities when it comes to skills that you may have. Like, maybe you're someone who is a creative and you're very particular about your craft and the things that you create. And so you decide to really like focus and hone in on your skills, but you are just like, you don't want to show off that creative work to the world. You know, it's kind of like when people make content, but they don't post it because they're like, oh, I don't think this is aesthetic enough. I don't think this is good enough. Or like they make drawings and then they don't post it because they're like, oh, I think people are going to bully me because I'm still learning and it just doesn't look good. Like, I saw a video one time on TikTok of this kid who was drawing his fashion designs. Because of the kid's poor skill level when it comes to drawing, people were, you know, bullying this kid because it wasn't very appeasing to the eyes. But, you know, instead of being discouraged, this kid kept going and their drawings kept getting better as a result. So you may be likely to encounter an event where you may have to show off your talents and your skills, and maybe at first it doesn't go as planned, but with due time over the course of 2025, you find yourself improving in that skill and getting better and finally being able to show your creative juices and your creative works, and you become more talented and more skilled. One thing that I want to say when it comes about Critica is that it can have to do with showing your authentic self. So a major event for this year is you being true to yourself, bracing who you are, and Critica can be such a chaotic placement, you know. But it is about embracing, you know, the messy parts of yourself, the parts that you may feel a little bit scared to reveal, but this is about being brave. You want to create strong relationships, authentic relationships, one where you can be with someone and accept their flaws and they can accept your flaws as well. So in 2025, you may find yourself cutting ties from people and rebuilding those relationships. It kind of goes back to that community thing, that third house that third house connection is so important. And I've definitely seen with people having transits to their third house, with them losing friends, losing a sense of community, but then rebuilding it to create something lasting and something that resonates from them from an authentic standpoint. It's about letting go of relationships, friendships, connections that don't resonate with you, and then building upon those that do, and embracing relationships that do, that just make you feel like, okay, I feel like I can be an emotional mess around this person and they won't judge me. This Queen of Cups energy, that sense of emotional maturity and commitment to another person, and feeling like you are surrounded by people who care and cherish you, is very, very important in 2025. Like, this is some major events, like feeling like I can be my authentic self. I can embrace my emotions. I can share my inner voice. I can trust my inner voice to guide me to connections that feel fulfilling towards me. So I do want to say that that is something to look forward to in terms of any sort of major events. So that is something that's very, very, very important. But we do have a lot of events centering around, you know, thinking, reflecting, communications, connections with other people, whether that is even receiving recognition from people within your community, or even, you know, possibly stirring up some jealousy from people who may be uncomfortable with your authentic self, you know, or who may feel like, you know, they could never be as bold or something along the lines of that. It's a little bit of both. Like, there's some public criticism, but at the same time, there's also support. And there can also be some miscommunications as well. So these are some major events that are happening for you, pile number 5. So keep that in mind. Another thing that we have here is when we have the Hangman in terms of events, not to harp on things that can be a little bit uncomfortable, but if you look at the history of Hangman, it's about someone who's kind of being put on display to be almost in a way made fun of, kind of how I was talking about before with the person who's being like bullied online. So you may find yourself in an event where people are judging you, or even just maybe they aren't judging you in a negative way, but you may find yourself in a position where you have to be judged, where you have to be like pinned up against other people and compared to others, which we all have to go through. Like, even something like applying for a job, that's putting yourself in a situation where you have to be judged, where you have to be seen, and people have to compare you to others around you. So you may find yourself in more situations where you are in a position where you have to put yourself out there and put yourself in a spot to be critiqued by others. So that's something that's really major that's happening for you, pile number 3. I think I said 5. I don't know. But that is what's happening for you when it comes to that. This can also be about leaving an organization, leaving a community, starting your own community, starting an online platform, finding a space where you can create something that is authentic to yourself, whether that is starting a club, starting a group, heck, starting a Reddit forum, whatever the case may be. All right. That's something that happens here. This can be about going through a breakup, going through a divorce. Like, Critica is the knife. It can be cutting ties with things that just aren't right for you, cutting out toxic individuals, cutting out toxic influences. When we focus on sun-ruled nakshatras, one thing that they see them say constantly is that, hey, I just want to be a good person, right? I want to focus on purifying myself and bringing in influences into my life that support that goodness. And so you don't want to be tied to someone who might be bringing you down. Sorry to harp on this sense of connections and communications and relationships so much, but that is like a big major event, or you're having a lot of major events when it comes to that in 2025. So having healthy boundaries, setting those boundaries, like even the Hangman represents a period of isolation because it has to do with reflection and trying to figure out, you know, your next move or your next space or any place in life where you might be self-sabotaging yourself and going against what is truly right for you and what makes sense for you. So keep that in mind. It's reflecting on your own behavior and reflecting on maybe how you come across, how you communicate, the sacrifices that you need to make. All right. So in 2025, there are some sacrifices. There are some major events that center around a sacrifice that you need to make. When I see stories of Critica, they are always sacrificing for their loved ones. They are always putting in the effort to help others. It's like they'll throw themselves into the flame just to protect someone around them. Okay, that is something that I've seen quite often with Critica people, where they're like, okay, I know, and it doesn't have to be something extreme. It could be something like, okay, my friend's needs help moving, and though I need to, do my laundry today, I need to make sure that I get my car washed, or I need to go get my car inspected. I'm gonna have to put that on pause because my friend needs me. So it's like making that sacrifice in order to help someone that you love and that you care about and who you want to support. So there may be some period or some moment within the year where you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to make this sacrifice in order to help someone out that I love and care about because they need me. Like I've seen Critica people make huge sacrifices when it comes to love. Something along the lines of like, okay, I need to stay at home and support my family while my wife or husband goes out and makes money because it's too expensive to afford childcare. So I have to make the sacrifice of putting my career on the backbone to support my family, or something along the lines of that. That can happen. That can happen this year. That can be a major event that is occurring. So I want you to keep that in mind. You may also find yourself feeling like that you are going through this period of transition when it comes to letting go of things in this life that have disappointed you, that haven't aligned with who you truly are, that make you feel a little bit like, I don't know if this is the right fit for me. I don't know if I want to continue on this path. It gets really complicated when it comes to all of the self-reflection that goes on here in terms of major events. Because if we think about major events happening when it comes to like self-sacrificing and ending self-sabotage and finding your direction and pace that you go in life, then this can be about, okay, I'm going to change some habits. For example, I remember that when I had some major planets going through my 12th house, and I apologize for using myself all the time, but like, it's obviously easiest to recall my own life, right? I've lived it, but I've obviously seen other people experience different things as well when it comes to major life transitions. Like, well, let me start with what I experienced. So when it comes to like a major 12th house transit, and I talk about the 12th house transit because we have Hangman, which is connected to the Pisces, which is connected to the 12th house naturally. When we have these 12th house transits, I went through that transit, and once that transit was like totally fulfilled, I had to decide for myself, okay, I really want to lose weight. Like I am dedicated to never going back to going on these up and down weight loss journeys and gaining large amounts of weight and dropping it and going this cycle over and over again. And I committed to that growth, and I made that sacrifice, and it was hard. But at the same time, I never went back to that way. At least so far, it's been a long time. And I don't see myself going back to that unless, something major happens or something. But that's a major transition that can happen from the 12th house, where you decide to destroy any sort of habits that go against who you truly want to be in this life. And you're cutting out all of that, all of those behaviors to create a new version of yourself, which gets into Critica, which has to do with creation, which has to do with building something from scratch, which has to do with molding your own world and molding your own environment. It makes me think of, if you know the creator Nara Smith, who I believe has Sun in Critica, I'm pretty sure she does, how people say like how she promotes this lifestyle that's unrealistic and she lives in her own world. Well, she created her own world. That's the life, that's the world she lives in. That's what she has done for herself. She's created this image of a glamorous mom who cooks all her meals from scratch, who is a working mom as well, who takes care of her family, and people felt that was unrealistic for them and their lives, but it's realistic for her. She created her own world. She created that fantasy became her reality. And so this could be something that's happening for you. People will see you as having a very particular and unique journey that they themselves are like, how are you managing to do all of this? Like, you are being able to keep up the pace with going after your ambitions, but at the same time doing so in a very glamorous way. I see a lot of Critica women, especially as they get a little bit older, being a little bit more glamorous, and they make things seem like, not that they make things look easy, but they make things seem a little bit like, oh wow, this person lives in a different reality than the rest of us. And it's quite amazing, and it's an impressive feat. So I think there's a strong sense of other people being very impressed by what you're doing in 2025. That's not a major event, but that's just something I wanted to say. It's more than likely a result of a major event. Like, for example, I just gave the weight loss example. You lose a lot of weight, but at the same time, let's say you're going to school and you're working, and you're just like, how is this person managing to balance working out, but at the same time going to school and at the same time working? And it doesn't seem realistic to me, but it's realistic for that person, right? It's realistic for that person. The things that you're doing may seem like impossible to other people, but you're managing to do it. You're putting in the effort. You're putting in the time. And you're able to tackle these issues or things that you might be struggling with or have been struggling with for a long time. And you're able to do it in style. So that is something that's super major for you. Other major events that we can have here, I mean, the cards aren't really focused more so on like finances, which is very interesting. They focus more so on a sense of connection and self-improvement and things along the lines of emotional maturity and growing in character. But we do have a sense of you being able to possibly travel. Not that Critica is like the major placement for travel, but since we have the Hangman, I do want to mention travel. And the Knight of Swords can deal with going to different places. Knights travel, knights go all over the places. So this can be an expansion of a community in terms of like travel. So this can be something along the lines of, oh, I took a solo trip. And that's a major event that's happening for you in 2025. Taking that solo trip, being that very independent person, and allowing yourself to be thrust into a world of like the unknown, you know, embracing the chaotic nature that is life, and going to some place that may be a little bit more remote or that is lesser known or that a lot of people don't tend to go towards. And people may see that as being brave and powerful and interesting. So it's embracing your sense of adventure. Being able to take a sabbatical. Being able to say, all right, I need some time to figure out exactly what it is that I want to do. I've definitely met Critica people who at some point in their life, they tend to go through a period of just like, all right, I'm trying to figure out my new path. Like, I may be working like a part-time job here, a part-time job there, or I may not even be working at all. Maybe I've saved enough money to just even sit back and think and figure out what it is that I want to do. I want to move in a different direction, and so I'm giving myself an opportunity to pause and think. So a major event that could be happening when it comes to 2025 is that you can have an opportunity to pause and to think, where things slow down for a little bit and you decide, or you force things to slow down. Like I mentioned before, you take that sabbatical and you say, all right, things are getting a little bit too, things are going too much in the direction I don't want it to go. So now it's time for me to actually move where I want to go and figure that whole journey out, okay? Being brave enough to just like quit your job on the spot and say, sorry, this isn't for me. I'm moving on and I'm going to decide to go do something else without a plan. Because this is very much like, I'm done and I'm not going to stay here and I'm not going to go and try to build and find stability first. I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to quit and see where things go. That's very much 2025 energy, and that could be a very major event. Extremely major that is happening for you, pile number 5. Sorry, 3. I want to say 5. I don't know why I want to say 5. Pile number 3. But it really is about living your life by your own path, going after what it is and taking what it is that you want and taking a moment to pause and decide what it is that you want. That's a very major thing that is happening to you. And it's almost like you are clean the slate. You're trying to start off with a clean slate. You're trying to move to a place that feels like I am supported by the people around you. I am living the life that makes me feel fulfilled and nurtured. I am in a place that I can grow with the people around me. I am embracing my true nature and my true self. And I am able to accept my own flaws. So I want to point that out. Like, I am able to just say, hey, I'm a flawed human being and that's okay. And I'm working on myself. So there's this major event when it comes to self-acceptance. All right. So I think I have mentioned that. This is about like having some sort of personal breakthrough, personal epiphany, possibly even a sense of minimalism in terms of lifestyle. I only say that because Critica can be a little bit more minimalistic and less material. And you see how we have a lack of pentacles here, which would be less focused on the material and more focused on events happening, things that drive you creatively, even things of a more sexual nature for some of you could possibly be, because Critica obviously enjoys that part of life. it's a sun rule placement, and so it deals a lot when it comes to the areas of intimacy and that sort of nature. Trying to think of what major events that are really happening for you. It really is about like cleansing yourself of bad habits, taking time to have the courage to go do something different, to go do something that's authentic for you, and wanting to be surrounded by people who also feel that way. I feel like I'm repeating myself because this really is just the major events that are happening for you. Maybe some of you go to therapy because we have the Queen of Cups here, but we don't have a ton of cards that are intuitively going towards therapy. This to me is more so about like I'm talking to my close friends about what I'm thinking, or I'm talking to my social media following about how I'm feeling. I'm talking to those around me, things along the lines of that. I'm writing down my dreams. I'm interpreting my dreams. I am meditating. I'm using some sort of spiritual practice to connect with myself. Like, I don't get a huge therapy vibe, but that may be like 15% of you. So I'm going to mention it. Even if it's a small percent, it's still percent of you that could possibly be an event for you. And then maybe some of you, if you're a little bit older, granted my audience doesn't tend to be that much older, but for some of you, this can represent retiring, because the Hangman can definitely be a retired card. Like, hey, I'm done working. We're at the final peak. I'm done. Like, I'm hanging up the towel. I'm retiring. I'm calling it a day. And I'm going to figure out something else new to do with my life. So I do want to mention that. But there's a huge shift in how you identify and how you see yourself. Okay, so I do want to mention that. Relationships really become important. Self-expression is really coming important. I really feel like there's going to be some major things when it comes to, you know, speaking, writing, publishing. Maybe you put out a book or something along the lines of that. Maybe you do some creative project and you present that work. Maybe you do something along the lines of, like I said, gaining some new skill, and I don't know, something to do with like putting yourself out there and presenting that is very much important when it comes to this year coming up in 2025. And I think I've already talked about taking that vacation, taking that sabbatical, taking that time off. That can be something major that's happening for you. Heck, it might even be forced time off. Maybe you break up with your career. Maybe you break up with your job. You say, hey, I'm like I said, that retirement type of energy. So if you're not retiring, then this is like, I'm switching. I'm out. Like, this is a wrap for me. Not feeling it. Not feeling it anymore. I really think feel like this is a change in your community, in your background. I'm trying to think of sorry, I kicked my laptop. I'm really trying to Spirit's trying to say something. I feel like there's something I'm not interpreting right from Spirit. Like, I'm not interpreting right, but more so like it wants to say something that I'm like, what is it that you're trying to say to me? That I'm here. I just know that you're creating something that is sustainable for yourself emotionally. And that you're being able and you're being called to make sacrifices, maybe even called to go against your community. For example, maybe you're dating someone that your family doesn't approve of. This can be something along the lines of that. This can be something along the lines of maybe even your friends they don't approve of it, of the relationship, or maybe they don't approve of some decisions that you're making. And maybe that's causing you to cut ties and causing a rift within relationships. And it doesn't always have to be a rift, but with these cards, I don't know. I just hate delivering like news that can be uncomfortable or challenging. But I do have to mention that. I do have to mention that. There's so much passion. There's so much passion going on in 2025. So much desire to move to a better place. To create a better life. To be with someone who you feel deeply connected with. And honestly, okay, let's talk about it, because I didn't want to say it, but when I get the Three of Swords, sometimes it's not always a rift. Sometimes it's always not like a loss of connections or heartbreaks, but sometimes it's loneliness. And when I see Critica here, it's actually interesting because a lot of the Critica people I have met have been very like late bloomers in a way. Meaning they don't have a lot of like romantic relationships. They may not have a lot of experience with dating. I've just noticed that I've like literally met a lot of people who have this placement, and they struggle to find those connections. So in 2025, you could feel like there's a period where you're just kind of like lonely. And that can become a major event. And I hate having to lead with that, because who wants to hear that? Who wants to hear like, oh, next year's going to be so sad and lonely? Like, no, this is good though, because this loneliness is going to give you an opportunity to purge the people out of your life who aren't right for you, or to evaluate and to understand who it is that you want to build a relationship with and build a solid foundation with. And it's like you have to be brave enough to say, I don't think my soul aligns with the people that I am coming across with. I don't think I'm feeling a strong enough emotional connection to those who I'm currently surrounded by. And so you have to choose to pull away from them, or even just take a different route in navigating to get the desired relationship that you want. And the major event can be about tackling loneliness and dealing with it and overcoming it. And that can be a lot, because this can have to do with taking steps to decide, all right, I'm a very shy person, so now I'm going to try to slowly put myself out there. I'm going to try to, flirt with a bunch of guys. I'm going to try to give people my number. I'm going to go to singles events. I'm going to, join a dating app. I'm going to try to make connections at work or through school, because those are top places people meet their significant others. And so a major event can be saying, I'm going to overcome loneliness in 2025. I'm pretty sure that's what Spirit wanted me to say, because like, I just don't, these are tough things that I have to discuss, but these are real things that people deal with. People deal with the loneliness. They deal with the lack of community. They deal with the lack of love and cherish or appreciation in their life. This is a major thing. And I really do feel like in 2025, you're reaching out and making these connections, and you're starting to really find people in your life that feel right for you, and possibly even a romantic partner. Critica is a placement that, like I said, really does deal with that quite frequently. They have this like long longing for closeness that you may not see. Like, I think a lot of sun rule people are like shown as like players and stuff in like movies and stuff, like James Bond type of vibe. But if you meet them in real life, you're like, this person's kind of sad. Like, so that is what I see when, like, at least from my observations, I'm like, man, this person needs some love in their life. And so maybe you get to the point where you say, I need some love in my life, and I've got to do something about it, because I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be in this place where I feel like I can't make that deep connection. But this is a good thing that's coming, because you're going to be able to open up, and you're going to be able to figure out what are these hangups that are stopping me from building the connections that I want. And then when you move forward, and as you move forward, you're going to slowly make more connections. You're going to slowly feel more confident within yourself, and you're really going to grow as a person. This 2025, the major event is you. You're the major event. You're the star. You're the one who's coming in with the fire and the passion and the strong willpower to succeed and tackle the things that feel uncomfortable. And it will be challenging, but you're going to grow so much emotionally. Pile number 3. So that is what I have for you. Hopefully this resonates. If not, feel free to choose a new pile, or maybe I'm not the reader for you. Either way, I'm very, very happy you stopped by, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to let me know what you think, how you feel below in the comments. Au revoir. Au revoir. Au revoir. Hey pal, number 3, let's get into the major events that will shape your 2025. We have the crossroads, this way, that way. We have the 7 of Swords, the Page of Cups. We have the Judgment card, the 9 of Wands, and You Inspire Me Every Day. And 2, let's not forget, our Nakshatra card, Anuradha. Anuradha, coming up here, the Star of, I believe, Friendship is what I think it's connected to. But this says the star of success, but I've also seen friendship connected to Anurata as well. But before we get started on these cards, let's go into the Astro dice and see what are these major events. Ooh, one fell off, so let's throw that one again. And it fell off again. Okay, I'll be extra gentle with this one. There we go. So, man, it looks like this year's going to be a little unpredictable, all right? So, Jupiter in Leo in the second house. Jupiter and Leo in the second house we have here. So, the major events that we have coming on here are the most obvious is the fact that we are going to likely have two things is the first things I think of. We think of the external world, which is the rise in money. You know, the having more income, the increase in finances, having more disposable income, and having more wealth, getting more job opportunities. Like, this is something that is likely coming in for you in 2025, like a major event. Obviously, that is what we're talking about here. So there's going to be some sort of increase, and it's going to be helpful and beneficial to you in some sort of way. I do want to make note of that. And then the second thing we can see here is more of an internal thing, which is a rise in confidence. A rise in your ability to believe in yourself. A rise in saying, hey, this is my worth. I know my worth, and this is what I deserve to get paid for that. Maybe that's how you get that rise in, income. That's how you get that promotion. That's how you get the courage to look for a new job or new opportunities. That's how you decide to say, you know what, enough's enough of this. I'm going to go in a different direction, which makes sense because we have this crossroads card here. From my experience, when Jupiter transits the second house, this really can do with an expansion of, well, yeah, it's an expansion of wealth, but it can also be an expansion of like buying things. For example, you may find yourself buying more clothing, buying more food, spending more money on whatever it is that you value, because the second house is everything you value. I'm listing some things that I value, but you could value completely different things. You might value like hiking, and so you spend your money on hiking gear. You might value biking, so you spend your money on biking gear. But generally, what this happens is this area of life is being lit up, essentially. It's this area in which you are able to expand and grow in your ownership. Like, second house is things that you own, things that you possess. So when Jupiter goes through it, or in this case, Jupiter's kind of like letting you know, hey, I'm in the second house here. It's saying, hey, I'm expanding your radius of what you own. I'm expanding your property. And for some people, it could be small things, but for other people, it can be very big and major things. It really, really depends. Okay, it really does depend on who exactly you are, your chart, and the moves that you are making in your life. Okay, one thing that we see here in my experience with Jupiter going through the second house is possibly even more access to grants, to loans, more access to capital if you have a business, more access to scholarships if you are applying to scholarships. This can represent, as I mentioned, spending more money. So maybe you're like, oh, my schedule is so busy right now. I can't afford to go to the grocery store and cook, or go to the grocery store and make a trip. So I'm going to use Instacart, or I'm going to order out. I'm going to get takeout. Like, it's not always gaining that money, but it is spending money as well. So when we're talking about major events and spending monies on major things, what are some big expenses? On a small scale, a big expense might be something along the lines of a laptop or a camera, which can be thousands of dollars depending on your laptop or your camera. Another bigger expense than that could be something along the lines of furniture. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to buy a new bed. I've got to buy a new couch. You're spending a little bit more money, or might be around the same money depending on the quality of your furniture. Then we get into things along the lines of, my kitchen is flooded. I need to replace my kitchen, the floor, the aisle, the stove, all of these things need to be replaced in something. And then that's a bigger expense. So some major event could be happening this year in terms of how you're spending your money. You may encounter a large expense. Now, it doesn't say whether this expense is something due to crisis or something that you just really want. But that is something that is a major event that is coming up for you. Pile number 3. So be on the lookout for 2025 to have a major expense to come your way. Now, I will say with Leo, it does make me think that this is more so like an expense for something that you enjoy. Because when we have Jupiter transit Leo, it's kind of giving 5th house fun, entertainment energy. So this could say, hey, I'm spending a lot of money on a vacation. Like, I'm spending a lot of money traveling abroad. Like, I'm spending a lot of money going overseas. Like, this could be something along the lines of that. And it may not even be your money. It could be somebody, like I said, loans or grants, or being offered money, or someone else paying for that and giving you the money. Like, it's, granted, that's more 8th house energy, but we do have Anurata, and Anurata is connected to Scorpio, which is the 8th house. So yes, that is also a possibility as well. So I really see that coming. I really see it coming for you in 2025. This largest expense that is coming your way, and possibly something that's going to be pleasurable and enjoyable, especially since we have this Jupiter Leo energy. And this also means like an expansion of more than likely free time, downtime, time to yourself, time for enjoyment, time for possibly dating as well. I don't think I talked about too much dating with a lot of the pals because that wasn't a lot of the focus for them. But for you, there does seem to be a good amount of dating opportunities, especially since we have Jupiter in Leo. In my experience, from what I've seen, because the 2nd house is connected to family, if you are dating with the intention of marriage or long-term commitment, partnerships, then yes, Jupiter's 2nd house energy can represent trying to build connections and date. So just want to throw that out there. People don't normally say it's a dating house, but yeah, it can be a dating house. Like, if this house gets triggered, you may want to start dating. And so in 2025, you may find yourself having some new opportunities for romance coming your way, which is also reinforced by this Page of Cups here, and also this Judgment card here, which is like, we're starting new. This is like love coming in, and the Judgment say this is like fresh, new love that's coming in, like nothing you've never ever experienced before. So you can't run, you can't hide from it, even if you wanted to. But if you're already in a relationship, then, you know, that might be null and void for you, unless you're trying to have an affair or something. But I'm hoping that's not the case. But what we want to say is, if this is just, you're already in a relationship, then yeah, it may feel like you were connecting with your partner in a new and different way, especially with Judgment. This is about letting bygones be bygones. If you've had some rough patches, some arguments, some areas where you haven't seen eye to eye, then this is coming through and smoothing things over and saying, okay, you know what, let's agree to disagree, or even, you know, I finally understand your perspective and where you're coming from along the lines of this. And so being able to understand your partner's perspective, even being able to understand each other on a higher level, on a more transformative level, can be a major event. It takes some people years to like get to that place of understanding and emotional connection and maturity within a relationship. Sometimes it just doesn't happen at all, but in 2025, if you're in a relationship, then it's going to feel like, oh, it's finally clicked. Like, I finally get your perspective, or you finally get my perspective, and we can move forward in a positive light. And we can go the distance, and we can last, and, you know, make it last forever, you know. Like, all of these things we've been fighting for, all of these things we've been pushing for, we finally are able to see each other's perspective. And even if we don't agree, we can understand where the other person is coming from, right? So that's something that can be possibly super major for you at pile number 3, especially with Jupiter second house energy. That's like smoothing things over with the family. So if you're like married, this would be like, I'm smoothing things over with my spouse. Like I'm making sure everything's all right with them. I'm checking in with them, making sure they're good and everything's wonderful. Like I know when I've seen Jupiter transit the second house and people spend a lot more time with their family or with their significant other, with their spouse. So in 2025, you may find like, wow, we're spending so much time together. Like, I don't think I've been used to seeing you this much, which is interesting because we do have the 7 of Swords here, but we have these other cards and energies connecting to intimacy and connection. So that's something we're going to dive into. Let's dive into that. Crossroads here. We already know what Crossroads is about, and we see the 7 of Swords next to it, where there's some big decision that you have to make, more than likely to do with, I was going to say, well, there's a few things, like I just got flooded with messages, more than likely to do with your finances, more than likely to do with, maybe cutting off certain family members or people who aren't right for you. Possibly having to do with partnerships and relationships as well. And even, treading in a different direction in terms of how you make your money. So I want to say that. A lot of people, at least from what I've seen with these cards and readings, are really reconsidering their jobs and their roles in 2025. I mean, this is a pretty big deal here. It's like, yes, you may get to a point where you are making a little bit more money and gaining some more of material things in which you liked, but it feels like this is not what you want. This is not what's being fulfilled. This is not what's fulfilling towards you. And the reason I say that is because when we have the 7 of Swords, the 7 of Swords is this card of like sneaky and running away and lying and cheating and, all of this jazz. But at the same time, if we take it to represent like something positive, is that the 7 of Swords doesn't feel the need to stay in a place where they don't feel like they're welcomed. And I think in 2025, it's likely that you are making the decision to move on from environments that you feel like aren't welcoming toward you. But then it also has to do with, I think in 2025, there's going to be some major events surrounding you delaying making a decision, pile number 3. Now, I'm not trying to step on your neck and be like, make this decision or whatever, because it's not for me to judge or anything. But what it looks like here is that you're going to come to a point where you feel like, oh, wow, I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want to have to deal with this thing at the moment. I don't want to have to figure things out. I don't want to play this little lost girl, little lost boy role. I just want to avoid this situation altogether. I don't want to be in control of this situation here. I just want to run away and not deal with it and go and live in my fantasy world. But reality is going to hit. So in 2025, this decision that you are delaying making, that you have to make, that you have to decide, is going to, it's going to cause you a little bit of stress. Not a lot, but a little bit of stress. Because when we have Anurata here, Anurata is a placement that is located in the 8th house. And any Anurata person I have ever met, let me tell you, like, when it comes to them, there's like almost this point in time when, especially if we're talking about jobs, where things just, it's almost like the job kicks them out for them. Like it or quite literally will fire them, or quite literally will like push them away or push them out, or maybe they themselves like quit. For example, we could look at Joe Biden, who I believe has an Honorata placement. I don't know if it's a sun or moon or ascendant. I have to look at his chart again, but from my memory, if I recall right, he has an Honorata placement. And look how, you know, he fought for a really long time to secure the presidency. He's been running since the 80s, I think, for president. Got the presidency, but then, you know, his memory starts chipping away. And he sort of has to give up this position of power. And he doesn't want to, because it's the only path that, you know, he has been on for so long. And the only thing he really knows, like, what is he going to do next? You know, it's this crossroads, this way or that way. And I just see that a lot with Honorata individuals or Honorata energy. And I think one of the major events, it may not be career, it could be something else, some sort of goal that you have to reevaluate or change, or along the lines of that. Not everyone has a job, career, you know, but whatever the case may be, it's almost like you're going to be forced to have to, you know, go to a different position, go to a different direction. And it doesn't matter, you know, what your next direction is, but you're going to have to choose it. You're not going to want to with the Seven of Swords here, but you're going to have to. So I want to say that's a major event coming in 2025, and it's going to be related to, your goals. For some of you, this is related to family members or close friends. And I say that because this could possibly being like, oh, I have to address the behavior of, you know, someone who did something to me, whether that's a friend or a family member or etc. And it may not even be like, oh, we need to have a discussion depending on what they did, because Honorata gets pretty dark. Especially when I first initially was researching it, I was like, ooh, this is kind of a scary placement. But like, I mean, really, seriously, it's like you quickly run into the worst of the worst situations with Honorata. I'm not saying that's happening in 2025, but all I'm saying is that this can have to do with, I need to address this trauma that I went through in my past, and I need to learn to deal with it, because I've been running away from it for so long, but I can no longer run away from it. And honestly, the emotional work might even be harder than, you know, a job, you know, kicking you out of your butt. Because if this is something dealing with some sort of long-term trauma that you haven't wanted to address, or you just, you know, you couldn't deal with it at the moment, this is the year that it's going to happen. And I do want to say that Judgment also connects to Pluto, ruler of Scorpio, and Honorata is obviously in Scorpio. So we have double Scorpionic energy going on here, all about the psychology, the inner world, addressing traumas, as well as elation and extreme emotions is what we have here. Speaking of the extreme emotions, because I know I talked about how dark Honorata is, one thing I like to always remind people is that Pluto, Scorpio, these placements represent, like I said, extreme emotions. That doesn't just mean sadness and grief and trauma. It means extreme elation. And in fact, when I was sort of like studying this nakshatra Honorata, which maybe I really need to make a video about these nakshatras. But when I was studying this nakshatra Honorata, one thing I found was Honorata people tended to be known for being like the happiest people. Like, people were just like, oh, this person is living in bliss. It could be ignorance, it could be whatever the case may be, but from my observation, for some it is ignorance. For the other half, it's being bold and being daring and choosing to live life with no fear. And the third half, it has to do with refusing to face trauma, like kind of like what I said here. Like, you've seen that, if you ever seen Unbreakable Kimmy Smith, which I think she has an honorata placement, I'm pretty sure. If you ever seen Unbreakable Kimmy Smith, there's a scene where she is kind of referencing her trauma, and she was kind of letting her friends know a technique she used to do in the bunker, which she was kidnapped and forced to live into. And she would just kind of grab her friend's hands, jump up and down and say, "We're not really here. We're not really here." In a very happy tone. So it's kind of like, let's avoid the situation. Let's choose to lose and live in delusion in a way. But 2025 is coming around. And not saying you're living in delusion, not saying anything like that, but I have to talk it through the energies because it helps me focus and explain what I'm trying to say. But what happens here is that if you haven't been able to confront your demons, your past, your traumas, things that have hurt you, now's going to be the year to do so. You know, you can't live in this state where you're pretending what happened didn't happen. Okay, I want to say that. So we've talked about the job. We've talked about, you know, the possible trauma. Now I want to go into a little bit of the happy part, because like I said, Honorata rules things that are extreme emotions, like that Pluto judgment energy, which lets me know 2025 is actually going to be a year of great elation for you. Now, we've already talked about the Jupiter and Leo coming through, having more free time, having more time to relax, having more time to have fun. But we also have this Honorata field, which can be exciting and thrilling and so unexpected and amazing and wonderful, beautiful surprises that hit you in 2025. And I really do see that happening for you. I really do see that you're going to experience some moments that are going to be, they're going to be over the moon, happy, elated, joyful. This could be falling in love for the first time. And you can look at all my readings. I never say that. I never say that. I promise you, look at them. This could be something like falling in love for the first time. This could be something like if you've been single for a long period, this would be having a crush. If you are someone who has been feeling like your desires haven't been met, you can't make connections with other people, you're struggling with loneliness and feeling like you have a place where you belong, this is about finding that place. This is about building that connection. This is about being cherished. Oh my God. Sorry guys. I just realized like there is love on the card. The card literally says love, which is so honorata because like if you look at these nakshatra cards and if you listen to what I was saying for the past 2 seconds, it does have those intense, extreme emotions, and love is one of them. You won't see love on all the other nakshatra cards, I promise you. You can look at the Venus ruled ones, even they don't have love on them. But honorata, because it's so intense and it's so deep, and because the emotions are so, my goodness, endless, this becomes about finding an opportunity for love, growing in love. And it can be a love of a person, it could be love of yourself, whatever the case is, but the love is growing in 2025. So a major event that could be happening for you is you could find love. You can find someone who you really truly connect with and cherish for the rest of your life. And I'll be honest, it may not be the person you think it's going to be, because with this Judgment card here and Honorata here and the Seven of Swords, it's like you almost like pull away from this person at first. And especially with this Nine of Swords, it's like you're like, oh no, I got to protect myself. I've got to pull away from this person. But, you know, you can't run and hide from love. All right. As they say, You can't run and hide from love. So I do want to keep that in mind. Maybe for some of you are already in a relationship, so this could be something along the lines of getting engaged, and that would be a major event in 2025. So it's not about like I found love, it's about like I'm committing to love. I'm deciding that I want to be with this person. I'm getting married, because Anurata connects to Scorpio, the 8th house, which is the house of marriage life, married life. You know, 7th house is like, hey, that's my spouse. Second from the 7th house, which is the 8th house, is like, hey, this is us married together. This is our married life. You know, we're living it up. That is something that can relate to. Another thing, if we're going to talk about relationships, is this can be breaking away from a relationship, going through a divorce, letting things go, because we have the 7 of Swords and we have Judgment, which can be like, I'm pulling away from this, I'm getting out of this relationship, I'm going through a divorce, I'm breaking up with someone, I'm no longer with this person, I don't feel like this person connects with me, they're not right. For me, things along the lines of that. That's what we have here when we have 2025 major events. There's so much going on for you. Like, this is such a busy pile. This is such a busy pile when it comes to the things that are happening for you. When I do see this placement, it can deal with extreme wealth. Usually Saturnian placements are like the number one, we're going to marry a rich man no matter what type of placements. Which is no surprise. Saturn rules the top of the charts, which is like success, achievement, power. Money is power in this life. And a representative of success, and a representation of success. So this can represent, as I mentioned before, either meeting someone who has some money, or you yourself becoming, you know, a total boss and saying, I'm bossing up, I'm making my own money, I'm making my own way, I'm doing my own thing. Others of you may fall pregnant. I know I don't say that a lot either, but I have to. I don't like, you know, making too many like predictions like that, because, you know, I know how serious it is. Some people really struggle with pregnancy. So if you don't, you know, get pregnant, that's, you know, just disregard that. But like, but I have to mention it because we do have the expansion of family. We do have the connection to Anurata, which is like, you know, giving birth and things like that, major transformations. We have this crossroads energy, which can say, hey, we're at the crossroads of changing in life, where I'm becoming a dad, I'm becoming a mom, and, you know, I have to choose if that's something I really, really want. And this Judgment is like this new revelation of a new day, and examining your feelings towards fatherhood, motherhood, and this transformation that you're going through. So that's something that can be done. Okay? And that is a major event that's happening. A lot of healing is going on in 2025 for you, pile number 3. The focus really is about on growing wealth, addressing trauma, gaining new family members, gaining new relationships, or breaking up from relationships. And then also, as I mentioned before, kind of having that feeling where you're like, I've been kicked out of this job. Like, I've been kicked out of this job. I've been kicked out of this career. I've been kicked out of this group. Like, I don't have a choice. They don't want me here. And so as we move forward in the year, you're going to have to create a new path for yourself, a new identity in a way for yourself, especially with Judgment here, you know, rising out of the ashes like the phoenix. You're coming out anew. You are being rejuvenized, and you are letting go of a lot of baggage. So another thing I want to say is this could also represent mending estranged relationships. If I didn't say that already when I said like with Jupiter in like the 2nd house coming through with like, let me heal this family thing going on here. Judgment also deals with, in a way, reconciliation and healing things from the past. And if it's not, you know, let's mend this relationship, then it's like, you know what, I'm going to choose to move on and say the past is the past, and maybe forgive for some of you. This can represent, from my understanding, It's about welcoming in this new beginning. Now, this new beginning, I really do feel like it's strong and emotional. It's like breaking free. I mean, quite literally, it can deal with going to a new location and getting out of the space, getting out of your city. I mean, crossroads means like, oh, hey, you could literally be taking a road to a different place. Like, let me travel to this place. Let me travel to that place. Let me see what that's like. Let me take a road trip, you know? Something along the lines of that. Let me just try to figure out how I can get to a more satisfactory place. Okay? But 2025 is 100% going to be... It's going to be a year. It's going to be one of them ones, guys. It's going to be one of them years that's like, wow, this was so much going on. It's going to feel like you can't land on steady ground. There's no pinnacles here, guys. There's no pinnacles here. You know, the thing that represents structure and stability and reliability and being grounded, you're no longer grounded. 2025, this is wild. This is a lot. You're untethered. There's nothing tying you down. You're blowing in the wind. Okay? So 2025 is really this year where there's so much flexibility, that there's so much happening that it feels like you can't grip it. Like you can't hold on to anything. All right? So that could actually be very, very good in a way. You know, for some of you, I do feel like this could possibly mean taking a harder look at your finances. I do want to say this, for those of you who may be going through this transit where it's like, oh, I'm spending a lot, I am spending a lot of money, etc., etc., etc. I don't have much coming in, because Honorata can be like that. There's a lot of, God, every Honorata person I've met is insane with their finances. Like they just spend, and it doesn't, by some miracle, you know, aka loved ones or parents or someone that they rely on, they manage to get out of that debt. So financially this year may feel like very topsy-turvy, especially this 9 of Wands here. 9 of Wands is like, okay, I'm going through some hardships financially, and then I got to work my way out of these hardships, and I've got to find a way to get out of here and turn my life around, and then I get out of this hardship, and then I've got to deal with this money going this direction, and now I've got to, you know, pay off that credit card debt, and then pay off this loan, and then pay for this life insurance. It's like it's like whack-a-mole, but with finances, with the 9 of Wands energy here. You know, I saved for this thing. Oh my God, to get an accident, my savings are depleted. That type of energy for next year. Now, you're going to turn out all right, and everything's going to be perfectly fine, but you may be a little bit frustrated. Okay, you may be a little bit frustrated with how things are going, but the money's coming in. The money's coming in. It's just a matter of like, gosh, why won't it stay? Why won't it stay? Like, that's the thing. That's the thing in 2025. But you'll stay strong. You'll stay strong, and you'll stay in there. And it's very much a year of huge transformation. Huge transformation. You're going to feel re-inspired. You inspire me every day. I just thought about that. You inspire me every day. Lets me know that other people are seeing your struggle. Other people are seeing what you go through. Other people may be looking to you as a mentor, because they are like, whoa, how are you managing to do all of this? Like, how are you managing to be like this student, and then also a business person, and own this house, and create your own social media platform, and then all of a sudden I see that you're also volunteering, and whatever the case may be. Like, they see you trying and testing out new things, and it almost inspires them to try and test new things out. And they're looking at you with a sense of admiration. So the people around you are looking at you with a sense of admiration, and you yourself are going to feel inspired and revigorated to keep going. If you have been in a space where you have felt tired and burnt out and tired of the grind, 2025 is going to reinvigorate you, and you're going to feel like, I got this. There is nothing that's going to stop me from crossing that finish line and getting exactly what I want. That is what's going to happen here. I do think some of you will be making a major lifestyle change, whether that's like I've overcame an addiction or I have lost a major, amount of weight or something like that. But it's a major lifestyle change. So I do want to throw that out there for this pile. And I really do see you persevering through everything, and that perseverance is going to pay off. It really is going to pay off. You're going to come out so much stronger in 2025. And like I said, the money is coming. It's just, is it staying? I don't know. But it is coming. It is coming. And support is coming. But this year's it's really got so much going on. So much going on in terms of like, I've got to battle off these adversaries. I've got to deal with this problem here. I have to address, my own past, my own traumas, the other things that I've gone through. I've got people from my past coming up, trying to talk to me, trying to reconnect with me. And I've got to deal with them and decide how I want to deal with them. But you're going to stay strong. You may feel a little bit drained, but man, you're really, really going to push through. So that is what I have for you, pal number 3. Hopefully this resonates. You got to let me know how 2025 happens for you, what's going on, because this pal is like, woo! Like, so if you remember to come back, let me know. Like, I love hearing from everyone. People say they want to come back and give me updates, but I have yet to see these updates. So please update me. I want to know how your year will be or is going to be. And till next time, au revoir. Hey, pal number 4. Let's get into the major events that will shape your 2025. We have Candle Magic. We have 2 of Pentacles. We have the 6 of Cups. We have the Hermit. We have the Sun card. And we have your dedication is extraordinary. Ooh, someone is working hard. Makes sense. We got this 2 of Pentacles juggling here. But let's pull out some of our Nextra cards here. Throw that in there. We have Shravana. And also, we got the Astro dice, which, I've been going crazy with these dice. Let's get into it. Oh, they fell off. Let's roll that one again. Okay, so we have the 12th house, Rahu, with Taurus. Wow. Huge imagination. Lots of ideas, creativity, all of that going on inside your head. Excuse me. Wow. Excuse me, pal number 4. Speaking of 12th house, I'm a little tired. But yes, I think that Yan is definitely a sign that this year coming up, this 2025 major events, whatever's happening is going to leave you pretty exhausted, pretty tired. Even when we have this candle, we take out candles in the nighttime. It makes me think of like burning the midnight oil, staying up all night, trying to get things done, trying to, grind away into the night. And then we have this 2 of Pentacles, which you might get for somebody who has more than one job or more than one role or responsibility. Like, I'm a working mom, or, I am someone who is a student and I have a job, or I'm someone who runs a business, but then I also volunteer. Like, it represents juggling more than one role that you have to do here in 2025. And it's going to be a lot of hard work. We have Shravana. Don't even get me started on Shravana. It is a placement that has to do with lots and lots of hard work. If you don't know, I did do a video on Shravana quite some time ago, and there's a lot of messaging. It goes on and on. Whenever I do videos on moon ruled nakshatras, they go on for so long because it's so deep and vast, and it feels never ending with the research. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, I have to call it quits. But it just goes to show you there's always like different layers and different sides to it, which is going to be happening year 2025, where you feel like this year has so many different variations and facets to it that it feels like 5 years in one. But that's not where I was going. What I was going with this, with major events, is with Shravana, we have something about hard work, grinding away, burning the midnight oil. I don't know why this is so important, but I guess the major event is your hard work. Your dedication. Like it says, your dedication is extraordinary. One thing about Shravana is like, it is about grinding away for something for years. I'm not talking about months. I'm not talking about like a couple of weeks. I'm talking about years, when it feels hopeless, when it feels like there is nothing there, when it feels like everyone is saying, no, you can't do it. It is that type of unrelenting hope and optimism. It gets dark. And in that dark, the placements like Shravana are saying, I'm going to believe. I'm going to have faith. Shravana is all about faith. Like if I had to choose a word for Shravana, I would say it is faith. It is belief. It is intuitiveness. It is this feeling. It is this feeling that there is something beyond what is in front of you. It is this blind work ethic that I can achieve what I set my mind to, which is why we have Shravana ruled by the moon, but then also ruled by Capricorn. But it's about this unrelenting work ethic that says, I'm not going to let anyone stop me from reaching my desires and achieving what needs to be done. So someone who has like a Shravana place would be like Rosa Parks, right? So we had the civil rights movement, and she's obviously one of the faces of the major faces of the civil rights movement. She wasn't the first person to refuse to give up her seat, but she was the most known for it. And then obviously we know how long and hard that civil rights movement was. And even today, you know, we're still having to fight for equality. So it's this pressure, this force, this belief that you have to keep going despite all of the stress and the heaviness. When Saturn and Moon comes together, it's like mental pressure, heaviness on the mind. Why do you think so many people fear Sati Sati, which is when the moon is essentially the sign before the moon, the sign with the moon, and the sign after the moon. So it's that weight of Saturn on the mind. But there are people who have Shravana placements which carry this weight throughout their entire life. Think of someone like Britney Spears and everything that she went through when it comes to having that height of fame and being so unprotected and going through that height of fame and in the age where, you know, the internet's going, technology's growing. We have more access to celebrity culture. I mean, even now we have even more access. But then it was growing. There were so many people clawing at her. The media was unrelentless. There was zero empathy whatsoever. You know, the poor woman is shaving her head, being followed around by the paparazzi trying to get groceries. She's losing her mind, and people are just calling her crazy. They're calling her, oh, she's so weird. What's wrong with her? It's like her mental health's failing, and you guys are the problem, right? So think about all that pressure that she had to go in through blind. And another thing that we have with Sharavana is the footsteps. And the thing about the footsteps is it lets you know that there's no pathway. You're treading a new path. You're being innovative. Kind of like how, Britney Spears was in that way. Not like she's the first pop star, but she's kind of the first pop star that had that kind of height of fame, maybe minus Michael Jackson or something. And he was kind of a little off kilter too, right? Unfortunately. But we see the amount of pressure that gives, the amount of stress that gives to be the first one or one of the first to be put in that situation. You've got to tread through the forest. So 2025 is you treading through the forest, pal. Sorry, pal number 4. Like, I don't mean to laugh at all, because I do know that there's good things happening, because we have the Sun card here and it says your dedication is extraordinary. So it's like, yeah, you're getting results, but wow, the events, the pressure, the grinding away, the burning the midnight oil, it's like, this is so much happening. So some other major events that we have here is that you could also be unlocking some hidden talents of yours. I've met people who have Rahu in the 12th house, and they tend to be people who are really good actors, great communicators, very excellent communicators, to be completely honest. Usually kind of funny in a way. Definitely a sense of drama to them. But the main thing that I've seen is like this huge active imagination. So you may feel like in 2025, like your imagination may be triggered. And what can I mean by that? Well, since we're talking about Sharavana people, let's think about someone like J.K. Rowling, where she at some point had this lightning idea to start writing a children's book, Harry Potter, right? And she's writing this stuff on napkins and journals and any piece of paper that she can find. And she has all these drawings and doodles, and her mind is being activated and exploded through this type of energy. I don't think she has Rahu in the 12th house. I'm actually not sure of her full entire chart, but essentially it's kind of like in 2025, a major event is your natal chart being activated. Not your natal chart, your 12th house being activated. Like your imagination being stimulated and feeling like you have a lot of creative juices flowing and growing, and it feels like, wow, I'm so inspired right now. I have so much on my mind. I have so much that I want to do. I have so many creative thoughts, so many areas that I want to tackle. You know what I think? I think J.K. Rowling actually, if I'm trying to visualize her chart, I believe she has her Saturn in Pisces. So it's kind of similar with her Saturn's, I believe, her 12th house ruler. So it's kind of a similar vibe. So I'm not too off with kind of getting this inner overactive imagination type of vibe and being inspired in that way. So you may be getting some sort of brilliant idea come 2025, and that's going to be a major event because it's going to lead you to a lot of successes in the future. It's going to lead to a lot more recognition in the future. It's going to push you forward into either a position of authority or a position of power or a position of recognition, possibly fame. There was a study, I believe Claire Nocti did, where Sharavana, technically Saturn in Sharavana, is one of the most popular placements for having like major fame. And then the Sun card here, I think Uttara Falguni is one of those placements, but I mean, I kind of knew that myself. If you saw my Black Beauty study, I talked about briefly in the beginning how you see a lot of Uttara Falguni women go into a lot of media fields, and even within those media fields, they play people who are in media fields. Like, it's so funny. But yeah, so it can bring a lot of recognition in regards to what's going to be happening for you in 2025. If the recognition doesn't happen then it's going to happen because of the ideas that are being downloaded, is the word I want to say, being downloaded in 2025 for you. So keep that in mind. You may have a lot of ideas coming to you through your dreams. And one thing about candles is that When I think about candle and candle magic, it reminds me of all the representation that I see in media, how candles are tending to be used to enhance a spell or enhance a sort of moment or enhance what's being put out there, like this, the vibe, the essence. In a way, like in charm, they would often use candles with their spells to sort of enhance the energy of the spell. And you often see candles portrayed in that light. So it kind of goes back into what I was saying about how the imagination is being stimulated and you're downloading ideas. It's almost like this light bulb, no pun intended, with the candle and the sun is being shined above your head, and you're like, I've got it. I know what I can do. I know how to express myself. I know how to put myself out there. I have some great ideas and I need to throw them out there into the world. I have some really cool things that I want to show everyone. So it's almost like this jolt of inspiration that we have here, especially when we think about that enhancement and growing of things, stimulating and being pushed forward. And this really can deal with an inner light. This can be deal with friends' encouragement as well, because I get the Two of Pentacles representing like friends encouraging you and really supporting you throughout your journey in 2025, especially with the Six of Cups. Six of Cups represents like, hey, I want to help you out. I care about you and I think you're amazing, so please accept my help. So you really will have that support in 2025, and it's going to feel like you're going to feel a bit loved. You're going to feel like, oh, thank you, I'm so loved. But you're still going to want to be in your little bubble, your little zone of like isolation in a way, but the support is there if you ever need it. I just need to say that for 2025, but you're Mr. or Mrs. Independent for the most part. I will say that. With the Hermit and the Sun here, as well as the 12th house energy and Rahu as well, because Rahu does tend to want to innovate and do its own thing. And at some point, Rahu people can be kind of like loners in a way, and just like they want to grind away and work and do something different and build something different and be innovative, like I just said. This lets me know that 2025, one major event is going to be spending some time in isolation for growth. Now, it can be related to the things that I just talked about with the inspiration, but then this can also have to do with feeling like you need to reflect on your own behaviors or anything that might need to be purified and cleansed, or, you know, whatever the case may be. We all have our moments that we need to ourselves to just reflect and think about things and download and just say, okay, I want to reflect on my year right now. I want to reflect on my life right now. I want to reflect on the direction I'm going. 2025 feels like that year for you. Maybe it's a major year, a major milestone year, like, oh, I'm turning 30. Oh, I'm turning 25. I'm turning 21, like some sort of milestone year. 35 even, I would throw that in there, because it's like, okay, I'm getting closer to 40. I'm not quite young anymore. I'm not quite old. So it's kind of like I'm hitting this milestone year. Let me sit and think about exactly how I want to live out this life journey on this planet. Am I happy with the way things are going? Do I want to change directions? Things along the lines of that. So 2025, a major part of this year becomes about reflection and deep analysis, and even, practicing meditation and mindfulness. And some of you, a major event could be like you finally get into meditation and mindfulness. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while. Maybe it's been like reminiscing on your mind. Then you finally say, you know what? Actually, I do want to try some yoga. I want to try it and see if it's right for me. Maybe I don't like regular yoga. Maybe I like hot yoga. Maybe I like aerial yoga. Maybe I like pole yoga. Like, you test things out a little bit and you decide, wow, this is something I actually really enjoy, and it becomes a major part of your life. And then all of a sudden you're going to yoga conventions and you have a big yogi group of people, and then you're going to become a yoga teacher. And that's a huge major event if it leads down some sort of track like this, where now this yoga, meditation, mindfulness is blended into your everyday life, or almost everyday life. And that's something that's really major that could be happening for you, pile number 4. And another thing that I want to talk about is the fact that we have this intuitiveness, since we're going into the 12th house and we're talking about all this meditation and mindfulness and connecting to the divine. Shiravana is the number 1 placement for connecting to divine, because it's the combination of Saturn and Moon, which is Saturn is this the Moon is this intuitiveness, and Saturn is structure and stability and being able to refine and control. And so when you have that, it's like I'm able to control my intuition and how I choose to download messages and how I filter them and bring them out forth into the world. I am that connection, or I am part of that connection. I have a link to that connection from the divine to now. It's known as the 3 footprints for a reason, representing the earthly plane, the plane in between, and the heavens. So that is what Shiravana's connection is. So when we see that, and when we know about its connection, then we know that this year could be a rise in your intuitiveness and in your intuition. And if it's not your intuitiveness and your intuition, then we know that it's a rise in your ability to observe and pay attention, because we have the Sun card here. And when I notice when we have the Sun, it is all about being able to see the world around you. The Sun sees everything from above. So when you have somebody who has very strong Sun ruled qualities, they're somebody who can generally be very observant, not as observant as the Moon placements, but highly, highly observant. They pay attention. So this year, there's going to be a lot of realizing things, a lot of aha moments in 2025. These are some major events that are happening to you where things just start clicking. And it's because you're taking that time in isolation. And it's because you're taking that time to yourself. It's because you're choosing to grow and develop who you are as a person. It's because you're going under this major personal transformation, and you're releasing limiting beliefs as well, because whenever we get the 12th house and we get this Rahu here that says, hey, I want to innovate, I want to do what people haven't done before, I want to do what's the impossible. Well, then in order to do that, we have to think about, well, how am I limiting myself? What limiting thoughts do I have about myself? Am I saying I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm not right for this, I'm not right for that? You know, you have to get rid of all of that. And so 2025, a major event that's happening for you is that you are getting rid of those limiting beliefs. Now, getting rid of those limiting beliefs can happen through conversations with others, but I really do feel like this is coming through a sense of, you know, like I said, isolation, going into yourself, reflecting, even journaling. Like, I really do feel like writing, something about writing, typing, blogging, vlogging becomes a big part of your process in 2025. Like, this is a major event. It's a major event because it's going to be life-changing. I'm not saying like the whole sense of just vlogging and writing things down is a major event, but because the way you're utilizing it, and because it's inspiring your changes and how you're thinking, and it's because it's leading to revelations, then it becomes a major event. Especially when we have this candlelight. The first thing that I thought of when I saw it, but I didn't say anything because I'm like, is I think of journaling. I think of somebody sitting by the candlelight in their room, journaling and writing away. And I feel like something about writing and typing and staying up through the night is going to lead to a lot of those, like I said, aha moments, revelation moments, these moments where you feel like you are having a light bulb go off over your head. That is a lot of what I see here. You're forming new patterns. You're meeting new people, for sure. You're being offered more creative opportunities. So if you were like an actor, an actress, or something like that, or any creative field, then 2025 is the year like you get some major event, major role, major connection when it comes to that, especially if you work, like I said, in art or entertainment or any creative industry. This is a year of getting like a big break, especially with the Sun card here. The Sun card here is like, it's my time to shine. That's the energy of this card here. So I do want to make sure that I'm mentioning that here, because how could I not? Like, how could I not say something? Especially when we have Shravana here, which is connected to the 10th house of career and development and, you know, goals and et cetera, da, da, da. This can be about either becoming a leader or getting like a spotlight. So this would say, okay, maybe you aren't, you know, a superstar, Rihanna, Beyonce, but maybe all of a sudden you get an audition and you make it to, like, I don't know, is The Voice still on air? I don't know, if there's got to be some sort of talent show still on there. But let's say you audition for The Voice and you make it to the next round and you make it to like all the way to like round 3. Are you that level of superstar that Beyonce and Rihanna on? No, but you're being seen and you're being recognized for your talents. You know, so that's something that this can bring about. Being seen and being recognized for your talents and who you are and your creativity. So like I said, if you are in some sort of creative field, this is a great, fantastic year for you, or a spiritual field, because obviously 12th house is all that spirituality. So if you were part of like a spiritual community field, maybe you're like me, you read tarot cards and something along the lines of that, this would be like a big revolution happening for you in that field, where people are like, oh, you're achieving that recognition, oh, you're achieving that fame, you know, because like I said, Shravana can be connected to that fame. And if you saw my video, I talk about how Shravana is connected to legacy and the things that you leave behind and making a major impression on someone. So you're going to be making some big impressions on people. People are going to remember you come 2025. You're going to do something that people are just, that's going to like resonate and ingrain in people's brains in 2025. And like I said, this could be because you're doing things to make you stand out. Like Rahu likes to do things different. You are changing the name of the game for something in your field. Maybe you're changing jobs and your resume looks freaking fantastic. Maybe instead of sending in a resume, you send in some sort of app or website that shows all your work and portfolios or something along the lines of that, and you have some creative things going on there, and people are like, oh, that really stood out, and we want to give you this great role because we feel like you have a lot of creative ideas and inputs and you're very innovative. So I do want to say something like that. This can involve you deciding that, I wouldn't say it's like all public speaking, because public speaking, we wouldn't got the Hermit. So it's public, but, you know, maybe not so much in person. So this might be something along the lines of like social media, or through some sort of like screen that you are filtered by, or there's something in between you and the audience, if you have an audience, or something in between you and, you know, your boss, your peers, your coworkers, whoever. So it's not like this direct contact, which makes me think, oh, remote work or something along the lines of that, or even hybrid, because we have the Two of Pentacles here, which represents, you know, I'm juggling two things. So I work at home and I come into work. That's hybrid type of model when we have this Two of Pentacles here. So something along the lines of that. So it's like, yeah, we public speak sometimes, but other times we're at home, right? Maybe you commute like 1 day a week or 3 days a week or something along the lines of that, but it's not fully like, hey, I am going and doing a book tour, and I'm talking to everyone. Like if this was a book tour, half the time it'd be virtual, right? With these cards here. But this can do with being someone who is going to be a leader. Like there's a lot of cards here suggesting that you are guiding others, that you are leading others, that you're showing people the way, that you are expressing a lot of dedication to your growth. And it's really going to show in 2025. The results are coming in. Okay, you go into hermit mode, which so cute with the little fridge there and the cat in the fridge, and then you come out on the other side and you show people just exactly what you are made of. This can also be something along the lines of like a healing journey, a health journey, because when we have Rahu in the 12th house, that means K2, because it's always near Rahu, is in the 6th house, which means the house of health is being affected. Essentially, a lot of things can happen when you have planets and stuff aspect the 6th house, but to sort of give a general vibe that I'm picking up on is that this can represent sort of solving a health issue. Like, for example, if I wouldn't even say solving, but maybe making some improvements or finding some solutions or finding some answers. Like, for example, maybe you notice that it's difficult for you to pay attention to certain things. Like, it's hard for you to concentrate. And then you go to a doctor and you find out you get diagnosed with ADHD or something along the lines of that. Sorry if I butchered the symptoms. I'm not completely familiar with all the symptoms of ADHD. I'm just trying to go with from what I have heard people with ADHD say. So that could, like, something like that could happen. You could be someone who suffers from, you know, chronic migraines, and then you finally go to a doctor and you figure out, okay, this is what's partially causing the migraines, and you know, figure out a solution. You have to change your diet and do something and sleep at, 7 hours a day to ensure that you don't get certain migraines or headaches or things along the lines of that. That is something that is very, very, very important when it comes to a physical possible level up in that way. So there can be some health solutions that can be going on as well. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about how you may be overcoming some serious illness or anything like that. I'm just giving an idea of some possibilities that could happen. Like anything that is very serious and medical, I suggest you go to a professional about. But the cards with the Hermit and the Sun may show something along the lines of, okay, I'm making some changes to my health, or I'm discovering some things, or I've done some research, or, there possibly is some improvements, but I'm not going to say that's for everyone, okay? I'm just throwing that out there because that is a possibility, but I don't want anyone to come here to me for medical, legal advice or anything like that. I'm just a tarot reader, right? So I just want to throw that out there. So this can also have to do with studying and education and like saying, okay, I've got this major event where I made the dean's list and I got all A's, or I managed to, get into this research program, or I've joined this club and I finally get to express myself in the way that I've always wanted to express myself, or a way that I haven't been able to connect to in a while, because the Six of Cups is about this memory lane and going down the past, and you're like, okay, I'm looking at the past and I'm realizing I haven't been able to dance in a while, and I've always loved dancing, and it feels like I'm focusing so much time on like work or studying, I don't get time to dance. And now you come out and you say, you know what, I need to create a different schedule to make time for the things that I love, and now you're dancing again. Something like that. So this year 2025, some of the major events can have to do with revisiting old hobbies and revitalizing them, making them come back to life, bringing, breathing life back into things that you used to love and used to like to do, and getting to a place where you feel like you're connecting to that childlike version of yourself. We have two cards representing children here. And so for some of you, there may even be some major events which are like more so centered around your children. But for you, it's, a big deal because it's affecting your life as well. Maybe you've tried to get your kid into some private school and then get into a private school, and now that affects your life as well, right? Because now you have to pay for private school, take them to private school, and get them tutoring and all this stuff. And, their big shift in their life ends up shifting your life as well. That's something to keep in mind, that your children are going to play a big role in the major events that are going to be happening for you in 2025 if you have children. And this in general could just mean like children in general could play a big deal in events. Like if you were a teacher, then yes, maybe there's a, situation with a student and you kind of have to like help this student socialize more. And then that's putting in the effort, and that person becomes like a big event, a part of your 2025, having to support them and help them grow. And the reason I say support and help them grow is because that's what the Sun card is kind of like all about. And if you look up, you know, Sun ruled people in that sense, they're always talking about how can they support and uplift others. And you'll even see comments under their videos saying things along the lines of like, oh, they should have won best supportive actress for this, or like they're so supportive of this person. Like if they're in their best, if they're in their, you know, they're in their bag and they're a good person, then that's something that people will usually say about them. And so a big part of your 2025, like a major event, could possibly be that you are helping support someone within their role, and it becomes a very, very big deal. Especially if you're like someone who's second in like command or something like that. Like if this were like let's say, you know, somebody's Joe Biden and you're Kamala Harris, like that's a big event, right? Like where you have to play a supportive role, but that supportive role is a huge part and affects so many different people's lives. So that's something that's very important that's going to be happening. So maybe this is quite literal, where it's like saying, okay, I'm an assistant manager and I'm, you know, in charge of creating people's schedules, and I have to deal with people's problems and ensure that, you know, there's needs are met. And if there's conflict among the team, I'm the one to deal with it. And therefore, like, you've got this responsibility that is saying that you have to help and support other people, and it affects their lives. And that's a major event that is happening. We definitely can see you, you know, leveling up, mastering some skills, especially within your time off, your solitude, you know, your time to yourself. It really feels like this time that you are taking to sort of reflect and go inward and, you know, maybe spend some time inside, indoors, and being more of an introvert in 2025 is going to lead toward you being able to emerge and come out with, I don't know, something like new, something brilliant, something that's like, wow, this is incredible. I don't know what's happening here, but excuse me, I'm like going on, like my nose is so stuffed. I think it's sinuses in the winter or something like that. But something about, you know, feeling revitalizing, feeling like you've got this new idea, this fresh new perspective, feeling like you are recharged and ready. Like, for example, let's say you were single, you take a break from dating, and now you're like, let me just go into my little hermit mode and I don't want to deal with anybody. And then after going into hermit mode, you get back out there and you start dating again. A lot of people, what I see on the internet a lot is they put this, you know, spin on it where they say, okay, you're a person's always dating sometimes, say dating people, going out there, putting yourself on apps, and they say, oh, you're desperate, etc. I'm like, it's not really desperation. What I would call it is more so an emotional emergency. Because when you do not get your needs met, that is pretty much what it feels like. It's like you are someone who is in a state where you are constantly having to be overwhelmed by urges of wanting love and affection and desire and, you know, things along the lines of that. It's normal, it's natural, it's human. And so in 2025, at least towards the end, you may feel ready to open yourself up back again when it comes to love and affection. And that's only if you've been out of the game for so long. For those of you who are in relationships, well, you know, this is representing kind of like cocooning with your significant other. And then, you know, you're like, hey, I need a little bit of space away from you. But then you're like ready to dive back in, and you just, I don't know, you love them even more, or whoever, him or her, it doesn't really matter. But that's like the case when it comes to that. There was something I wanted to mention about Shravana. Oh, right. I wanted to talk about this transplant energy when it comes to Shravana. One event that is common, that was common, was they all felt like an alien in a foreign land, or they all had this experience where they ended up having to be thrown into a completely different environment than they were before. So I don't know if that's the entirety of your 2025, but at some point I would expect that to happen, for you to be thrusted into a new environment, thrusted into a new role that feels alien to you, that feels like something that you could not have predicted, that you couldn't, that it's very difficult to get used to and to adjust. And that could also be what this Hermit card represents, because if you've ever been to a country where you don't speak the language, you're kind of a little bit in hermit mode because you can't communicate with anyone. And thus, that becomes part of your story in major events. So keep in mind, at some point you may feel like a stranger in a strange land in 2025, where that could be literally you traveling or being thrust into a new environment or something along the lines of that. It's all about experiencing and traveling into a new world. And even if you look at, Shravana stories, they all talk about being thrown into a new world, being thrown into a new environment. And that's also what happens to them in their life. So they write about what they know, right? They write about having to deal with being in an environment that's totally different, or having to like code switch between certain environments, certain groups, and things along the lines of that. And then lastly, I want to talk about a small group of you, which may be, not amping or desiring a more simple life or a simple existence in 2025, where you find yourself being closer to nature, maybe doing more so outdoorsy things, camping, being in the mountains, things along the lines of that is something that may be a major event for you in 2025, where you feel like, oh, I'm closer to nature, I'm closer to the environment, I am in this sort of, cave-like place and things along the lines of that. But it's pulling away from less man-made structures, especially when we have, like I said, if Rahu's in the 12th house and Ketu's in the 6th house, and Ketu's rejecting the material world, which the 6th house is so ingrained in, and Rahu's going in towards this imaginary wilderness space, right? And so something about 2025 has to do with being in this sort of like wild-like element environment. Like, let me hang out near this volcano, let me run through this field of daisies. Like, it's very natural. And so you may have these experiences, these events that involve like, let me take a trip to this like I said, volcano, mountain, what forest or something along the line, cave. And it becomes like this all like wonderful experience, or even if it's not wonderful, it's definitely impactful and it will stick with you throughout 2025. And I think that is what I wanted to say, pile number 4, about everything that is going to, like, the major events that are happening for you this year. And then, this can also be, speaking of like health, I forgot to focus on the mental health. This can be something along like overcoming depression, overcoming anxiety, or even finding the tools to help this to get better, because I don't want to make it seem like, oh my gosh, I'm completely healed or something like that. But this can represent like finding some tools to help you manage, depression and anxiety when it comes to these things here. I know that's a complicated subject, and it's just not something that's easy to just, let me shake it off and we're done being depressed now. That's not how life works at all. But I did want to, mention that. I wanted to mention that because that can be something that's a strong possibility. If you've been in a funk for so long, if you have felt like, you're not really going anywhere, and you're kind of just stuck in the mud and you're feeling kind of, you know what I mean? Or even, obviously worse if it's depression. Then this year, 2025, then this can bring about more excitement, more happiness, more fun. Two of Pentacles is fun. The Sun card can represent fun. So that's something to look forward to when it comes to your year. And I should say, like, Rahu in Taurus is going to bring about a little bit more of like focusing on the hustle and focusing on the grind. But obviously when we have this in the 12th house, it's like, oh, I want to focus on the hustle, I want to focus on the grind, but I want to do it in a way where I'm expressing myself creatively. Like, I don't just want to make money any type of way. I want to tap into my soul. I want to tap into a part of me that connects to the divine or something along the lines of that. So I do want to mention that because Rahu in Taurus is definitely like an obsession with, you know, material gain. Same if it was in like the second house and trying to achieve that as well. But it also can bring about unusual values systems. Like, I don't particularly relate to society. I feel a little bit like an outcast, which kind of is what's going on here with the Hermit. So, I mean, I guess I didn't even need the cards. I could have just read from the dice and we would have gotten your 2025 energy where you're just in like a little bit of a hermit mode as well. Like, that's what's going to be happening here. And then also the last thing I want to say, if you have any legal disputes, then maybe this is like saying, okay, that's coming to a close. I'm not going to get too much into legals, but that's just the one comment I will make. Like I said, if you want legal advice, you need to go to a lawyer. Any professional advice, go to lawyers, doctors, etc. Whoever can provide you with that professional advice. But I do know the Hermit can represent, you know, conflict, and the Sun can represent like a new dawn, a revolution, a resolution, and having things, you know, we're done with that. It's over, new dawn, new day. And so that's where I got that interpretation from. If that's what you wanted to know. Okay. If that's what you wanted to know. And then lastly, this can represent you hiring some help as well, and possibly even solving some sort of mystery or thing that you might have been curious about for a long time. Like, if there were certain things you were a little bit unsure about when it comes to individuals, or like I said, anything in your life that could have been causing some uncertainty. For example, like, you know, before I knew I had IBS, I was like, what's going on with my stomach? Why is this happening? That's like a mystery to me, right? And then I figure out I have IBS and that mystery is revealed. So it could be something along the lines of that. It doesn't have to be particularly that. But with Shravana there, it's always about solving mysteries and trying to unveil things and looking for the real truth. But that is what I have for you, pile number 4. If you like the reading, feel free to, you know, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. Hopefully your 2025 is totally amazing. Like, your dedication is extraordinary. So obviously you are working very hard. We kind of talked about that already, but you know, I just want to wish you the best of luck in 2025 and au revoir. Hey, pal number 5, let's get into the major events that will shape your year. We have the Portal. We have the High Priestess. We have the Page of Pentacles. We have the Two of Swords. We have the Lovers. Aww. And we have, I'm grateful to call you a friend. All right. So, and then we also, for our Nakshatra card, we have Bafrani. And I do have some astro dice. Yes, this is a detailed reading. So let us go in. And I'm in love with these astro dice. I don't know why I didn't get them sooner. So we have the 4th house. We have Aries. And we have, is that Ketu or Rahu? I am trying to understand. Rahu. We have Rahu, that is. Okay. Okay, wow. Okay. Rahu in the 4th house is pretty big. Rahu in those access areas are major. So lately, we have been having, I think that's actually been this past year, this Rahu in Aries transit. If I'm trying to get the dates correct, I believe it started in the summer where the North Node went into Aries in 2024. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting that correct. Yeah, and it will leave in, I believe, 2025. Now, I don't know the exact date, but I'm going to assume it's like somewhere around July, but don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to that. I just know that it will be shifting. Okay, so it shifts in 2025, so be aware of that. But I love how we already have a placement that is currently going on in the sky. Okay, let me get my brain together. Actually, I believe the North Node leaves early in the year, but for some reason that has like some sort of major effect and shift in your life. So to recap, the North Node is in Aries now. It will be shifting and going out in January, I believe. All right. Don't hold me to it. Now, when that shift occurs, this is going to cause some sort of major life change for you. How do I know that? Because that's what the title of this reading is all about. If it wasn't important, the cards wouldn't have mentioned it. So when the node leaves Aries and it hops on over to Pisces, because the nodes travel backwards, this is going to bring about some revolutionary changes for you. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, because we have fourth house, it lets me think that this is either going to be an emotional shift, or B, an actual like, hey, I'm moving and I'm shifting over and I'm going to a different location. And it kind of is reiterated by the fact that we have the portal here. Because when we think about the portal, the first thing I thought of was like the portal, the veil to the unknown, the other side, which makes sense because, you know, I'm a tarot reader. That's how I'm going to think. But it also can represent like the portal, meaning like I'm opening the door to a new apartment, like this shows here. Like this has a picture of an apartment, and the apartment is called the portal and the door's opening. So this can quite literally mean that, okay, we're done with living in this situation. Now you've moved to a new apartment. Now you move to a new condo. Now you move to a new house. Now you move to a new state. Now you move to a new country, whatever the case may be. But your environment is shifting. If it's not physically shifting, then you're about to go through an emotional shift. It's going to either be one of the two or both, actually, because, you know, when you move and you go to a different location, that brings about new energies as well. So you're either going to have both things happening or one or the other happening. So keep that in mind. So this major shift is, like I said, it's going to have to do with you relocating, and that's going to change your perspective. It's going to change your mindset. It's going to shift how you decide to do things, how you decide to find your happiness and find your peace, and perhaps even change the way that you pursue your enjoyment in your downtime, you know, meaning like maybe you used to watch YouTube and now you decide, you know what, I'm not going to watch YouTube after work. I'm going to soak my feet in the bath and I'm going to play music. Like, it's a shift in your environment and what you're doing to make yourself feel good and feel at home and feel at peace and feel emotionally stable. But there's definitely a major shift coming. And like I said before, it may not literally be physical location. It may be something that you do within the privacy of your own home. It may be something that's going on with you internally. Maybe you decide, you know what, I need to make some changes in my life. I need to do things that make me feel awakened, that make me feel like I'm connected to something bigger than myself, that feel more aligned with my spiritual purpose, more aligned with my spiritual needs, or even just, hey, I would like a little bit more happiness and fun and fulfillment in my life. And I feel like I'm not getting that. I feel like I have been stuck in this one place for so long. I've been in this purgatory period. I've been in this Two of Swords period where like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. My efforts aren't amounting anywhere. Like things, something like along the lines of that. And then all of a sudden a door opens. And that's what 2025 is going to feel like for you, pile number 5. It's going to feel like suddenly a new door has opened for you. And when it comes to Rahu going through the 4th house, in my experience, when Rahu goes through the 4th house, it can shake your, you know, I was gonna curse. It can shake your stuff up, right? It's powerful. Whenever the nodes transits the access points, the 4 access points, which is like the 10th house, the 4th house, the 1st house, the 7th house, it will rock your world. It really will. So if it's already doing that for you, if it's already in one of those houses for you, then I think you already know what that experience is like. And what the cards are saying here is like, yeah, we put you through that craziness. Or maybe there's still a little bit of more untethering to do. But in 2025, you're finally going to be able to push through and come out on the other side to something different and something new. So I just want to keep that in mind for you. But this major change is definitely an emotional shift. You're not going to be living your life the same way. You're not going to be in the same routine that you were in before. Your day-to-day is shifting and it's going in a new direction. And I know that because we have the Page of Pentacles here, which is all about changing your routine. And I already knew that because I already saw the North Node and the 4th house access, and that's always a major shift. Like I mentioned before about those access points, okay? Those are always major shifts to your day-to-day, to your routine, because it changes your career, it changes your mindset, it can change your physical body, like change your relationships. It changes things in a major, major way. Okay, so I want you to be prepared for that. I'm talking about this could be a totally different career. I'm talking about this could be you going through a divorce. This could be you entering a relationship. Like this is powerful stuff, pal number 5. I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward through this reading. These major changes, these major events that are happening for you that will shape your year, they're not just beginning with the internal. Something's going to happen to rocket you forward. And like I said, this can have to do with getting a new opportunity. Because like they say, when one door closes, another one opens. And with the portal here showing this opening door, it lets me know that you're about to have this major event happen where you're going to get this outstanding opportunity. And with the High Priestess there, it makes me feel like this opportunity is something that you've either been manifesting or you feel like you've kind of had a feeling about it for a while. Like your intuition is just like, something's on the horizon, something's on the horizon. And it's pertaining to, like I said, either work, your career, your day-to-day, and, you know, possibly some changes when it comes to like dietary things or physical appearance as well. I want to say that. Only because we have the Page of Pentacles, and I get that to represent like I'm going through a dietary shift, or I'm picking up a new thing where I'm deciding I want to, you know, dance more or do hula hooping or something like that, which obviously can change what you look like, right? So that's something that to keep in mind for that. But those are some major events happening. Like these major events really will change a lot for you. And what it's mainly changing here is it's bringing you about more peace. It's bringing about more sense of emotional maturity. It is bringing you more in touch with this feminine nature, which for me, when I think of the feminine nature, I think of emotional intelligence. I think of compassion. I think of empathy. And these are the qualities that are growing within you, which I already knew from this Rahu 4th house Aries transit. Not only is it about growing empathy and understanding, which people don't really associate that with Aries so much, but it is true. Aries can be empathetic and understanding. But it's also about growing in confidence and self-worth, because the Page of Pentacles is a shy little page who's a little inexperienced and a little bit nervous and a little bit scared to go forward, but they do so anyway. And I know they do so because this Page of Pentacles, after there's the Two of Swords, and this technically needs to be reversed because it is following a pentacle, and pentacles and swords come together. It's a little bit of a mixy situation. And so this shows me that you are opening up as well, which kind of goes to that emotional transformation is what I was talking about. How you're opening up with the empathy, you're opening up with the compassion, you are growing in emotional intelligence and maturity, which involves expressing yourself, expressing your thoughts, expressing your feelings, and being more vulnerable, and stop being as shy and reserved here. Don't get me wrong, you're still going to be a little bit more structured and thoughtful about what you say, because we have the High Priestess here, and the High Priestess isn't like this chatty card who is there to have these long, wordy conversations. She's there to observe, to listen, and she'll say things, obviously. She's got a lot of wise things to say, but she doesn't want to do too much, right? So you're still a little bit more controlled and thoughtful and intentional with the things that you say, but you are starting to speak more. You are starting to communicate more. This is a major event that is happening for you. And I say that this is major because it's bringing about new relationships and new connections for you. And these are very deep and intimate connections. I know that because we just rolled the dice, guys, literally. And this is what we got with this Rahu 4th house and this Aries thing going on here. This has to do with you deepening your connections with not only yourself, but with other people, or other people that you find can be very close to you. Usually the 4th house can represent family, but it can also represent deep and intimate relationships, which can be romantic partnerships as well. And then we also have the Lovers here to kind of clarify that energy, in the sense that this is exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about deeper relationships with other people. We're talking about being able to connect with those on a spiritual plane. We're talking about possibly finding soulmates or twin flames, if you believe in that sort of thing. And then the fact that, oh my gosh, I literally forgot that we had the card. I'm grateful to call you a friend. So this actually can possibly deal with even friendships as well, not just romantic partnerships, because the fact that that was our message from our little affirmation cards, or is the fact that we have a lot of appreciation and love and connection, especially when it comes to friendship. And yeah, this can be romantic, this can be friendships, this could be even like close family relationships where it feels like I'm being supported, I'm being so loved, I'm being understood. The communications become stronger, the communications becomes tighter, you open up to each other more, you become more vulnerable with each other, you make new connections with other people, you say what's on your mind. You're less worried about being judged. And these are some major happenings for you, pile number 5. Like, this is incredible, okay? To be able to formulate these strong connections with others is actually very beautiful. I really think 2025 is going to be very beautiful for you. So we already have some of you possibly relocating, about 50% of you. We have some of you who are just kind of going under a strong emotional shift once Rahu moves out of Aries. And that's going to bring about this stage in your life where you're able to, you know, have this strong emotional security and confidence in yourself. Like, you already have the emotional intelligence, but this is when you're like more confident and believing in yourself and things along the lines of that. And you're moving forward in your life utilizing that emotional intelligence. Then we have you literally getting more opportunities, possibly job opportunities, to something that you feel strongly connected with and something that you've kind of had like an inkling about before. And I also want to go back and say that for those of you who are moving, the place that you're moving to is going to be very quiet, very peaceful, very like just very nice, and you feel very much like at home and comforted, and everybody minds their business. So I want to throw that out there. And then along the lines of that, like I said, this could be a shift in career. This can be a change in a job. This could be you taking on a business and starting a business. This can be you entering a new relationship, which I think that's very much supported with these cards, because you're starting to open up more and you're starting to speak your mind, and you're growing in that confidence and you're less shy, and you're also, like I mentioned before, changing the routines. And these are these major changes, major events coming on Like these are big things happening for you. I will say, because of the Lovers coming here, though the Lovers is a card I normally get to represent like things going quite smoothly and being peaceful, there is another side of the Lovers. Yes, it's represented by Gemini. Of course, there's another side to it. It can represent crisis situations sometimes. Sometimes I want to be light on that. You know, I don't want you to think like, oh my God, this is going to be disastrous and horrible for me. But what I see here is the fact that likely either you or someone else you know who you care about deeply, intimately, may go through a crisis situation. And because you go through that crisis situation, either they're going to be supportive of you or you're going to be supportive of them. And they're going to feel like, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. I'm grateful to call you a friend. I'm grateful to call you a lover. I'm grateful to call you a spouse. I'm grateful to call you a mother, a wife, a daughter, whatever the case may be. But it tightens those bonds. So expect the unexpected. This situation is going to be a little bit out of this world. It's going to happen. I have to mention these events. And it's going to feel like, whoa, this is a lot to deal with. But you're going to have that support. And that's something that's really incredible here. So be on the lookout for that type of event. Now, the cards aren't really specific about what it is. But if I had to say, it's definitely a situation you haven't been in before, because we have the Page of Pentacles here, which represents new things. So if you've been in a car accident before, this is probably not a car accident. So things along the lines of that. I want to keep that in mind. We have Bahrani, and I pull cards all the time to represent like weeks or days or years or months. I got this card personally for my January. I love to use myself because I'm an egomaniac. No, because it's just easier to recall things, and you know, I don't want to give away too much personal information about, you know, people I've met. But but essentially, this card was kind of like ensuring that I was in a healthy relationship that was supportive for that month. That's something that I had to do myself. I got this card when I was going through a breakup. I got this card when I was trying to evaluate what kind of relationships I was looking for. I have gotten this card to represent like a reflection of, you know, my self-worth. Not a reflection of my self-worth, but like reevaluating my self-worth and making sure that I was living my life in a way that aligned to my values. Okay? So that's something that I really felt was important to me. Okay? To ensure that my needs were being met. So I say this to say, I think 2025, you're going to be growing in the relationships you have. And if you don't see any room to grow within those relationships, perhaps you may cut those people out. Or perhaps what's going to happen is those relationships stay the same, but you decide to form new connections with people. You decide to reach out to others who you feel like align with your values, who you have things in common with, where there's a strong enough reciprocity within those relationships where you feel like, I love this person loves me, this person supports me, I'm so happy to be here. And that could be any relationship. You know, that could be friendships, that could be lovers, that could be whatever the case may be. But these are relationships where you feel like the respect is there, where you feel like there's an understanding there, where this person is giving you their full time and attention. One thing that I've seen about Bahrani is that they can struggle with a lot of insecurity, and they may feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough for a partner who will give me my full attention, or they feel like they aren't deserving of love, or they aren't deserving to be in the relationships that they want or truly desire, or that's just too difficult to them. So I see a lot of Barney people trying to get into relationships with people who are married, or people who may be emotionally unavailable. And so this is you rejecting all of that. Okay, we have this Two of Swords energy, was like coming off the fence and saying, I don't want to be in this place where we're sort of together but sort of not, and we're sort of in a relationship but we're not really in a relationship, and things like that. It's like, no, I want this deep lovers connection. I want to feel comforted. I want to feel emotionally cared for. I want to feel supported. Like I want that love. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be romantic, but it can just deal with any sort of relationship in your life where you feel like this person isn't living up to the qualities that I want in a partner or a friend or something along the lines of that. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be personal relationships. This could have to do with relationships with jobs, or relationships with business, a business you may have. And you may feel like, okay, this job isn't paying me enough. But maybe this is all I'm worth. Maybe this is all it is to it. I just don't deserve more. I don't deserve to get paid a decent wage. I just don't have enough qualifications for that, or I don't have enough experience for that. And like with this, it's kind of like saying, no, you are enough. You're great enough to get everything you desire in this world. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you don't deserve the things that you want. And that's what this Barney energy is. Okay? All right? I want you guys to know that. So when I pulled that card for, I believe, a month, that period was me like bossing up. Like I was focusing on my career. I was focusing on my education. I was a little bit social as well. And that was me just being like, you know what? This is not the relationship I'm looking for. I'm out. Like, but for real, like I really was. I was grinding away that month. Like I was taking my education so seriously. I studied for hours. I read everything. Like it was incredible what I was doing. And so I really feel like in 2025, this is you going through this period where you're like bossing up. All right. These major changes or events that are happening for you are you deciding, hey, I'm going to get this job that I want. I want to get paid, I don't know, 95K. So you get a job that pays you 95K. You're like, hey, I don't want to work full time. I want to work part time. Y'all don't pay me enough for all this effort. So you get a job that pays you part time. You get a job that's part time, or vice versa. You like, I don't want to work part time. I want a full time job, and I want to be on salary. So you get a job that in which you're on salary. Okay. So these are the things that are happening for you, pile number 5. Like this is you saying, I'm going to get the things that I want, and I'm not going to allow anyone else to get in my way. So these major events have to do around this new path that you're setting for yourself. And I already know it's a new path. I already know it's a new path because we got the portal, we got this door opening up for you. This, I did want to mention that, you know, this combination over here in this area does have to deal with a spiritual awakening, but I feel like, man, I don't know what's going on or what's in the air, but I have read so many piles lately that I'm like, not even just this reading, but like through other readings that I've been filming. And I'm like, what is going on? What's in the air with this spiritual like awakening stuff? Like, it's like so many cards are emphasizing like a rise in spiritual awareness and things along the lines of that. But you're having that moment as well. So I just want to throw that out there. So 2025, a major event is going to be a rise in intuitiveness, maybe even some sort of spiritual transformation that you're going through, or maybe you've already went through, because the fact that we have the portal lets me know that you might have been banging on the door for a while, and now finally the door's open and you get to go to the other side. So this is just like, okay, I've already been through the dark night of the soul. Now I'm in my element. I'm in my power. I'm feeling empowered. Okay. I just want to throw that here. And this year, a major event is going to happen where it's like you're going to be able to trust your intuition. Your intuition is very sharp this year. It's really leading you exactly where you need to be. And I just want to make that known for you, pile number 5. For some of you, this can represent like an offer for an entry-level job that is in a new field that you're like, oh wow, like I did not expect this. And it may not even be an entry-level job, maybe an entry-level position. Like for example, let's say you're working part-time and now you get to go to assistant manager. So that's still sort of an entry-level position, but like maybe you were a cashier and now you're a manager. That's two different types of entry levels, right? So it's something along the lines of that. Keep in mind that's be something major for you because it's a small push in the right direction to where you want to go. All right. This can also be like a major event of starting that side hustle that you want. And if you were connected to the spiritual community, this is a great opportunity that 2025 is letting you know that, yeah, start those tarot reading things. I do want to say, Barney, because Spirit is like literally screaming at me, is connected to soulmates. Like it just keeps like screaming in my head. So I don't know. Maybe some of you will be meeting a soulmate this year. I don't know if I personally connect to that concept, but like literally Spirit is like screaming soulmates at me. So I'm just like, okay. So Barney's connected to soulmates. The Lovers Gemini is also connected to soulmates. Migashira, which is in the sign of Gemini in Vedic astrology, is a sign that is also connected to soulmates. So there's like this double thing with soulmates going on here. I don't know what's going on. That's all I got for you. So some of you may be meeting a soulmate this year. This could be a romantic soulmate. This could be a soulmate that is a friendship soulmate, a business partner soulmate. There's so many different types of soulmates that they're in interpretations of soulmates. But whoever this is, there's a very important connection that's coming into your life. I just want to let that know. I mean, the fact that we have I'm Grateful calling you a friend. Barney is connected to soulmates. We have the Lovers card here. It's something's going on. Something's in the air when it comes to that, I want to say. And I really feel like this is something new, but it's a really important figure in your life, and they're going to be a very prevalent part of your 2025. So keep that in mind. You're going to have a friend who's going to be there for you during these challenging times, who's going to be there to celebrate your successes, who's going to be someone you are so grateful for and that you can lean on and that you can support too as well. And this person is really going to help shift your focus and keep you steady, keep you sane throughout 2025. Not that I think this is a bad year, to be completely honest, but I mean, to be fair, we're only talking about the major events that are happening for you. The major shifts and that's going on. One thing we also have here is with Rahu in Aries, that can be an increase in independence. I know we just talked about soulmates and everything like that, right? But I'm just like, yeah, Barney's also in Aries too. Barney, I can't pronounce it. Like I try to pronounce the Vedic words sometimes, and some of them I can get, some of them I can't. This one is I struggle with, and I've literally like watched videos of people saying it, and I'm just like, man, my tongue won't do it. But yeah, this is a shift in towards more independence as well. So I don't know, maybe this relationship, maybe they're encouraging you to follow your dreams is what's happening here if this is romantic. But yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Knowing yourself helps you to attract the person who is meant for you. So there's a greater understanding of self, more focus on drive and getting the desires that you want, gaining some skills that will be following you for a very, very, very long time as well. Renovating your space is something that becomes part of things. Taking on like a passion project or something that's innovative along those lines, I do want to say that, and really throwing yourself into it and being consistent at it. If you have a social media following, then this can also be representative of fans. So one thing I also want to talk about when we talk about the Lovers is traditionally they were known as the twins, which kind of goes into this play of, okay, we look the same, but we're not the same person. Similarly to represent of humanity. We are all human, but we are not all the same. So it's like we're the same, but we're not. We have different belief systems. So the thing about this in 2025 is that more than likely there's some choice that needs to be made. Some point, some major event, some major crossroads that you're going to come to that more than likely has to do with your values and someone else's values. Like this is some dilemma that's happening in 2025. It could be, you know, your parents' values versus your values, your friends' values versus your values, or even society's values versus your values. Like it's just a crossroads in terms of where should you turn, where should you run, where should you hide to. The thing is, you will make this decision in 2025. I mean, we have the Two of Swords reverse, which is about moving forward, no longer being on the fence, and going full-heartedly after your choice and living in that choice, whatever the case may be. I just want to mention that because we have that. And in a way, it feels like, it feels like there's going to be a lot of moments where you're going to be seeking inner peace from the turmoil which may be outside of you. Okay, I do want to say that with Barney. I see a lot of themes of just them having a lot of chaos around them within their lives. Things that are just majorly out of their control. Like I said, I don't think this is a chaotic year overall, but there may be some moments that are shocking or astounding or catch you off guard, right? I have to say that, you know. But really, as I mentioned before, this is about seeking that inner peace within yourself, especially with the High Priestess there. You will be able to rely on your own guidance. It's like, which way do you turn? Which way do you go? Like, this is the energy that's happening for 2025. I do want to say that, okay? A very passionate transformation that you are experiencing in 2025. It's a feeling of like self-discovery and navigating inner truths and figuring out your own inner truths, which I think, like I said, you're going to be able to do. This whole year isn't like this whole period of like, who am I, da da da. You'll know who you are. It's just a matter of just kind of having to be more vocal about it and more like, okay, I'm going to have to die on this hill. I have no choice but to express myself, you know. I just want to say that, okay? It kind of reminds me of how people may have expectations for you that you yourself may not align with. So, for example, I have been in some roles and positions that typically people might expect a male to be in. I mean, I've literally had people say to me, oh, you know, there's a girl doing this. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, so you can, you know, say, oh, maybe this role isn't for me. Maybe I shouldn't do that and try to live up to their expectations. Or you can say, no, this is where I belong. This is my place. And this is where I choose to be. And I'm, you know, oh, it reminds me of one of my favorite songs. It's like called Fool by Boa. And she has this line. It kind of reminds me of this reading, actually, where she says, you know, I can't remember the full thing, but the line is like, I choose to be where I chose to be. I choose to be what I chose to be. She said, now I choose to be what I chose to be, which is essentially like, she's not going to live up to other people's expectations. She's going to rely on her own truth. She's going to pay attention to what feels right for her. She's not going to have to try to battle all these people's expectations of her. She's just going to live the life that she feels. Essentially, it's about going forward to live the life that feels right for her. One last thing I want to say is when we have Bharani, there's obviously a lot of energy when it comes to, I guess ambition is the word, and being tactical and being someone who's going to be a little bit more I don't know if sneaky is the right word, maybe clever. Clever in the way that they choose to obtain power, obtain leverage, and move forward. So I see a rise in intelligence in terms of like how you choose to go about achieving your goals. And it's really going to put you in a more powerful position, especially since we have the High Priestess here. She's obviously a well-respected figure. So in 2025, I just see a sense of rising when it comes to respect. Sorry, as I was saying, pal number 5, sorry for all the interruptions. Things are crazy around here. Essentially, she is going to try to live the life that feels right for her. Okay? And that is what I see for you in 2025. Now, maybe not everyone respects your choices, but a lot of people will. Most will, in fact, because we have the High Priestess here to sort of reiterate that people are sort of feeling like, oh, okay, this person's off doing their own thing. So be aware of that major event happening and feeling a lot of backing and feeling a lot of supports. Like I said, it may not be everyone, but those who, you know, see your story and what you're going through and who you are as a person, they're the ones that are going to support you. And then I guess the last thing that I want to talk about here is being able to market yourself efficiently to find the right roles that are for you, and relying on social connections to pivot to areas in which you would like to pivot, whether that has to be expanding your friend circle in a certain way or even having to do with a career. And then also, because Barney is a Venusian rule placement, there is a focus when it comes to beauty. It's not the main focus of 2025, but there's an aspect of it, of making yourself more attractive and appealing towards other people. And you may even be finding yourself to having more people approach you, being less shy about it, being less reserved, trying to form connections with you. So I do want to say that. And I think these are the major things that are major events that are happening for you, pal number 5. Let me think about if there's any more I want to say in terms of what could possibly be going on for you. Like I feel like I've talked about the things that were the most important. I mean, if you're an artist, this could be finding your niche, or if you're just in social media, this could be finding an audience and finding your niche and getting support from them. Like I sort of mentioned before, with like having support from followers, and that way, like I feel like I've gone into the spiritual awakening. I feel like I've covered the main things that are happening in terms of events. I don't know why I'm like stuttering so much. I think I'm just tired. I think I am tired, and I can no longer channel anything else to come through me to let you know about 2025. I'm sorry, pal number 5. Like my brain has never been so tired. But you'll be sharp in 2025. You'll be very socially aware. You'll be very like attuned to the world around you. You'll be someone who is fierce, someone who's respected. Like respect's coming up a lot for this reading as well. You'll be someone who is focusing a lot on yourself as well, and trying to ensure that your goals are being reached. That's a big theme coming on here. But I'm trying to think of anything else this could be. I mean, other than love, we've kind of talked about love, and self-betterment. That's something that's a theme. Being a person which people admire. I see a lot of that. Like I know that's like less of an event and more so an ongoing thing, but it is a part of your 2025. There's a lot of admiration and respect coming your way. So I don't normally say that. I mean, you could go through and look at all my readings. I do not say that a lot. So keep that in mind, pile number 5. Like it's a lot coming your way in terms of that. But that is what I want to leave you with, and hopefully I will see you next time. Once again, sorry for all the disruptions. That happens when you live with people. Let me know if it resonates, and I will see you next time. Au revoir.